Should be should be live now.
Perfect.
All right. Just pulling it up here.
I give it a couple minutes.
Yeah. It's a little bit later than we normally stream here, so we'll see who's around.
There's got to be some night owls, man. There's always night owls that come by.
I have a feeling there will be some. As people start to come in, if you can just let us know if you can both hear us okay and everything like that. It's always appreciated. So really excited tonight to have Island Grown on here. Pretty last minute.
That's how we do it. Go with the flow.
Thing, and I like that too. I love talking Pokemon, and I'm like pretty much always down. So spontaneously hanging out, I guess late night for me, not quite as late night for you. Talking about Pokemon is a really fun way for me to, unwind or end my day. But for those who may not kind of know who you are and your experience with Pokemon, can you start just by introducing yourself a little bit and what do you kind of have going on, what you do? I know you have a lot of different platforms you're on. I think Twitch, right, being the biggest or the primary platform.
The primary one.
Yeah. But
sure, I can do that. So my name's Island Grown, or I guess the stage name is Island Grown. You can call me Brian as well. I'm a streamer. I've been in the hobby for quite a long time. But I would say I've been collecting it into TCGs like forever, right? Obviously, everybody's got that story of being a kid, bringing cards to school, collecting cards, right? That's a standard for everybody. But as I grew on through my middle school and high school, I've always collected. I've always had Pokemon cards. I've always collected all throughout, all the way to now. But I've changed and went into like Magic and went into Yu-Gi-Oh! And played competitively in a bunch of different games as well throughout. In terms of content creation, I graduated with an accounting degree, and then I just streamed on the side for fun. And the majority of my content before was a lot of different like mobile games and other games that we did on Twitch. So that's where my big following was started off. Like that's where I had that base. And when Pokemon kind of took off in the last couple of years, I was like, you know what? I might be able to transition. It's kind of scary as a content creator to transition your entire platform to something different. But I was like, you know what? This has always been my biggest hobby is cards and TCGs and Pokemon's nuts. Let's give it a shot. So I got to combine two different worlds together, right? My streaming realm with Pokemon and kind of making it into one. And then here we are today, kind of in a nutshell. Yeah.
When did you start making that transition?
It was about a year-ish before the crazy Pokemon stuff. Okay. Like I did some stuff with Mizkif, like you saw last year with the Pokemon Week. It was before like the Logan Paul craze. And I think all throughout my Twitch channel of like streaming other games and doing things as well, I've always like opened some cards and stuff here and there. Like I would end the stream opening up a pack of like evolutions when they used to be like $70, $80 a box, And then, some people thought it was cool because it's Pokemon cards, but I just did it for fun, right? Never thought it would be the entirety of the channel.
And did you know Mizkif through being on like the Twitch platform, or how did you guys meet and start to collaborate around some of that Pokemon stuff you guys did?
So it kind of started with, content creators, you do different content together. So I had previously done some content with another content creator called Trainwrecks, and we did some games and we played some other games together. And during that time when Pokemon started to get more popular, right, Train and a couple other content creators were like, I want to get some Pokemon stuff as well. So Train knew me. So he reached out to me and he's like, hey, can you get us a Team Rocket box? That's a start. Team Rocket box. And that was the first box him and Miz went together in. They did the opening of that. And I was there as their expert, right? Someone just to guide them, right? How to open the packs, take care of the cards, and just kind of I was the collectible guru without the infamous backing to it, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
Well, yes. And not I think you did a better job than that, and a more authentic, honest job of what you actually knew and maybe didn't know. But so do you feel like you're, since kind of transitioning to this sort of a year and a half, 2 years ago, how much have you gone into really learning the market, understanding the market? Do you view yourself as kind of someone who's interested in that, has sort of like deep knowledge on the market, talks about the market? Do you view yourself more as, entertaining, opening packs, trying to combine everything? Like, how do you see what you're trying to do and create?
I would say in terms of that, like that comes down to like knowledge, right? I like, or what my expertise is what you're nailing at. In terms of it, I'd like to say I'm a big content creator, right? I love creating content. I love hanging out with people, talking to people, but I do have a very solid knowledge base about what is Pokemon, right? You know, what these cards are, some of the rare cards, the origins of different things, as well as I do have I like to say a decent grasp in terms of like how the market has been moving within like the last decade to 2 decades. So a little bit here and there. I don't think I'm like the top notch in any other particular aspects, but I like to say overall, right, I have a grasp, you know, in every single realm in terms of Pokemon itself. Yeah.
Do you feel like there are any areas that either you have more of an interest in, and or you feel like you've looked at more or collected more or researched more, or do you feel it's kind of general and broad?
I think the area that I like to learn even more from, and I'm learning every day, is like a lot more of the history on like some of the cards and of Pokemon and things like that, and being able to be more of that expert in that realm, right? No, you see a card, you know the origin, you know where it came from, you know the meaning, you know why this Pokemon or this card came about. I'd like to learn even more. I mean, I know a decent amount, but I think that's the most interesting to me. And being able to share that with other people as a content creator, you know, obviously it kind of seems cool because you kind of know stuff, but it's also kind of cool to share that knowledge with other people as well so that they can learn about it, right? And they can now go and tell other people, hey, this card was from this event, or this card was, you know, created because of this reason. This was the error. This was the, you know, so I find that the most interesting in terms of Pokemon. Yeah.
So generally on this channel, we talk mostly, and I know I'm not sure how much you've watched. I know I've seen you in like some live chats before commenting, but generally, we do talk like mostly about the market. Sure. So I'm also happy to talk about like what we love to collect and anything. But I guess just to start and to ask you, and if people want to start asking questions, you know, interested in Island Grown's opinion on anything, what do you think? Like, where are you at right now? Obviously, there's so much content out there. There are lots of opinions on where are we at here. Are we sort of at a stabilizing point in the hobby? Are some parts of the hobby stabilizing in price while others are still falling? You know, when you look at things, generally speaking, where do you think we are? Like, what advice or opinion, you know, do you have on sort of the next 3, 6 months, year, you know, period?
I would say, I mean, like anything else, everything is always unpredictable, right? So nobody has the, you know, the finite answer. But I always recommend people, when people always ask, right, what do I want to, what should I collect? What should I buy? First and foremost, I always tell them this is the most important before you get into the nitty gritty economics thing or, you know, trends and things like that. Collect what you like. That should be the biggest message to everybody out there. Collect what you like, because that is the biggest value you're going to get, right? That feeling and accomplishment of collecting a master set, getting these graded cards, you know, reaching your holy grail, whatever card that is the biggest value you get. The added value is, you know, things will go up in value over time, right? Potentially, depending on what choices you make and which things that you select and you collect as well. But that's probably the most important thing. But in terms of the actual market right now, I think it is probably the best time to collect. I think right now is a great buyer's market. Prices have come down, as you've seen, from like across the board for everything, right? Especially the vintage stuff, you know, where a lot of people are coming to the hobby and they never had access to be able to get a lot of those things, and they were really, really expensive. It's come down to a spot that I believe is going to be kind of like that stabilized spot, that plateau that we're going to see for a lot of these, you know, vintage cards, and even semi-vintage cards. So now is a great time to be able to get the cards that you've always wanted to get. In terms of modern, it's going to be a little bit different, I would say. For modern is just going to be consistent, right? I don't think there's any crazy up downs for modern, from what I've seen, but maybe if we talk about specific cases, then we can get into some details on that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that, so you feel like vintage has fallen more than modern generally over the past 3 to 6 months from your perspective?
A lot of it. Yeah. A lot of vintage has fallen down. I mean, we're seeing boxes. I mean, base set box was 30K, 30 something K at peak. Base set boxes are now, you know, half that. Right.
Yeah. So, even I mean, less. I saw one
that's the crazy part.
A night or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, you gotta be careful if they're legit, but if they are, that's a big pickup. You know what I mean? That's what I'm telling people. It's a good time to buy it. Right.
Yeah. It was on Heritage Auction, so I think it's probably pretty good. I mean, it was one of the ones on Heritage that just sold.
Yeah. Those ones are nice when you buy them because you have a little bit of back insurance, but still doesn't mean that it's gonna be legit, right? But yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Yeah, vintage
but,
is
you know, other than buying from someone, you know, who is a humongous trusted seller, it's probably going to be your best bet is buying from an auction house like that. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's always risk, and if it ends up being fake, they don't. Right. Heritage Auctions is not authenticating those boxes or
right, or, exactly. Like some of the mistakes people do is they're like, okay, for example, you said Heritage Auction, right? They're very reputable. You might buy it, and let's say it turns out as a fake. Well, as a person who bought it, maybe they're newer to the hobby. Did they record the opening? Because if not, then you're dunzos, right? You can tell Heritage Auction, it's fake, but then they're going to try everything in their power not to give you your money back. You know what I mean? And you didn't record it. You didn't show any, there's no way to get real foolproof. So it's tough sometimes. So just be careful. I always tell people err on the side of caution, especially when vintage, right? I mean, just like any other financial advice, I mean, never get into something you don't have a lot of knowledge about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big issue for the high-end sealed market in particular. Of course, fake PSA. There are fake PSA cards out there. There are fake PSA cases with cards inside that are not that obviously fake. Like there are these issues, but it generally speaking, that is going to be less of an issue. It is going to be easier to spot. It is going to be easier to spot a fake card than a resealed box, because more often than not, the boxes are legitimate and it's just a resealed, item, using all sort of original wrapping and box and all these types of things. So it can be very tricky, very difficult to so yeah. So, I mean, from my perspective and what I'm seeing and sort of my overall view of the market is that
let's hear that.
Vintage, primarily when we talk about Wizards of the Coast sets, sort of our core Wizards of the Coast sets to start there, because other things have moved a little bit differently. The Wizards of the Coast sets went up to about 10 times to 11 times in value on average at the peak, with some examples like the Lugia, Mizkif Lugia, some examples of certain cards that went up 20 times in value or 25 times in value when we talk about like graded. But for the overall, that's sort of what happened. Unlimited base set and first edition base set going up a little bit more than that, around 14 times. And now they've all come back to being up around 3 to 5 times in value for the most part. So they've come down a long way. But if you look at sort of before Logan Paul jumped in the hobby, things are still about 3 to 5 times the value, most things across these sets on average. When we look at some modern, it's actually different. There's actually modern items that are going for cheaper right now than they were when before Logan Paul came in the hobby. Something like Hidden Fates singles. There are certain singles that are going lower, and then there are other modern cards and things like the Pikachu promos, like those Japanese promos, that are have gone up 11, 10, 15, 20 times and are still 10 times the value. So like there are certain modern things that have not come down as much. There are other vintage things that have not come down as much as other modern things, or those vintage things went up so much at one point that even though they've come down a lot and even more than certain other modern items because they didn't go up initially as much, relative to where they started, relative to where they were before Logan Paul. I
would say going off of what you just said there, of like, modern stuff, pulling back and getting a little bit cheaper as well. We do have to factor in that, those particular products, whether they're English or Japanese, right, they get reprinted, right? That's why you're talking about those promos. They don't really reprint those, but Hidden Fates, we saw some prices go down, which again, it's a great time if you like Hidden Fates, man, which I think is a freaking great set. It's one of my favorite sets. Now's a great time to buy some of those. They went down because there were some reprints of those, right? So because of those reprints, I'm seeing a lot of those modern cards, graded cards, raw cards go back down in price, even booster boxes, right? For example, even, Vivid Voltage. I mean, if you remember Vivid Voltage, it was like $200-$300 a box, man, right? But after that, they printed it out again. It's still a good set, but there's just more readily available product out there now, which is, kind of like the key to why the prices have gone down. But had those boxes not be reprinted, I don't think the prices in market would have retracted as much. I think it would have gone down like everything else, but not as much. So that's probably one of the biggest factors in my personal opinion.
It's reprints, and then it's graded supply finally coming back, and which sets the majority are coming back from, right? It completely. And when we look at what were the booster box breakers opening up massive amounts of, a year ago, people were getting it, sending it in for grading, or now probably, about a year ago, a little over a year and 3 months, those people who got those cards in when PSA was still open and they could still grade it at $8, $9, $10 a card. So it made sense to send in massive amounts of Hidden Fates, baby shinies, and, all the full trainers and all these types of things. That's what we're starting to really see come back, which is really suppress and push down those specific markets. Versus other parts of modern markets like the alternative arts, where there's almost no PSA or CGC graded alternative arts relative to the amount that are out there, because these grading card company, you'd have to send it in at a very high expensive price in order to get it back that quickly. So it's kind of, I think, people understanding sort of the nuances of, if you do want to collect modern, sort of when is the best financial time to buy modern. And I think we brought up the two key points, right? If you're looking at sealed, or graded or raw, understanding the reprint cycle, obviously no one can predict that, and we don't really know, but it would seem common sense that the further you get out overall, the less chance they'd probably reprint. But then there are these rumors, right? And these seem
it's
really
always rumors. I don't know where these come from. There's always rumors,
Yeah. And
how many times have you heard of the Cosmic Eclipse reprint, the Shining Legends getting reprinted? What else have people said? They've said some crazy sets. I'm like, there's no way Shining Legends is coming back, but I tell them I love it. And they print it again, bro. I'm down, Yeah.
And then it's sort of like restocks versus reprints. So it's some of the product maybe was held back or is still there for some reason, or at major distributors, and then all of a sudden it's showing up on Walmart shelves, and then people are wondering oh my God, is it everywhere? But it's actually just at a handful of Walmarts, and it's not everywhere. So there's a lot of opinions and it's important to try to deal in facts with that stuff as much as possible, but it's very unpredictable. And even someone like Danny Phantom or something who be a decent person, or a number of people like that, to Mason, Cardinal Gaming, and others, to listen to about what they are hearing specifically from their distributors in terms of, are they able, when they come out and say, I'm able to order as much as possible Hidden Fates right now, and they're going to fulfill any order I say, that means it's going to be a massive printed demand reprint, right?
I tell people that all the time. Until I hear it from distro or people that have connections with distro, then it's not real. It's not real until that happens.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Let's see here. We got some people coming in on the stream now.
Sweet. Yeah.
So do you collect yourself?
I do. I do collect quite a bit myself. Yeah, I got some cool things to collect. So the way I like to collect, it's a little cheesy, but I like to collect things that have a story behind it, right? Whether I'm getting it from somebody that's a friend or a buddy or another collector, and items that have significance behind them as well. So it can be anything from, vintage stuff to modern stuff. One of my favorite cards of all time. Here, I'll show you a couple things here. This will always be my favorite card of all time. I'll give you a little story behind this. I love being able to collect these things where I can have a little story with you, right? So this is a Shibuya Pikachu. All right, they gave away these for the opening of the Shibuya Pokemon Center in Japan. And I was actually in Japan in 2019 for the release of Tag Team All-Stars and this opening of this Pokemon Center. And I was a guy that visited every single one to get a bunch of these. And it was my first CGC submission as well. And when I sent them in, got a bunch back, all 9 5s, and then one came as a perfect 10. So I think it's the only perfect 10 that's still out there. So these are the things I like to collect, right? Other things like vintage. I don't know if you can see the thing in the background, but that's an unlimited blister, kind of like an unlimited kind of pack from Costco. You know how they always have that crazy big packaging from Costco, right? It's an original base set unlimited package from Costco of 10 unlimited packs in there. So things like that are the kind of the cool and unique things that I like to collect and look for. Right?
Those are quite rare. Yeah, I know. Cool Trainer Ryan has some of those. He showcased them actually in a recent PokeRev video, but yeah, they're pretty rare.
Yeah, because most of the people that got it back in the day, they opened the packs, or B, they saved it. But then at some point in the last decade, it was worth it where they're like, oh, why don't I just open this and sell the loose packs for $100, right? Basic packs are $100, right? So it's very rare to still have them in that kind of casing.
And
packaging. Yeah. So I collect things like that. I collect some graded games as well. I collect a bunch of vintage stuff, ETBs, just a lot of window shopping, just a lot of things I bait myself into collecting. Master sets from Wizards of the Coast all the way up to Diamond and Pearl, every single set. So just things like that. How about yourself? I know you like Hidden Fates, but what in particular do you collect?
I collect pretty much everything.
Okay. Same old.
I guess so. I started really I've been in the hobby I've been collecting collected as a kid, but as an adult, I've been collecting for about 6 years.
Oh, nice.
And I started with just some of the original WotC eras, trying to complete those sets, got interested in graded cards, tried to complete a number of those sets in PSA 10,
wow.
or at least PSA 9. Then I moved on to original Nintendo EX era, E-Series, and started to dabble a little bit in some vintage Japanese. I particularly liked Versus Series, Vending Series,
those are so good,
and the Misaki promos and the Play promos. That was sort of where I went next, combined with that. And this was about 4 years ago is when I started really going heavy into those.
Nice.
Then I started buying into Diamond and Pearl era, Level X's, Hollows, into some of my favorite sets. Actually, I really like the plasma sets, in particular, buying up some of those secret rares from those sets. Then I got very into like the Meiji Top Zone, 1997 Monster Cardass sets.
Those are awesome. The Cardass sets are amazing.
Yeah. I really like those.
Underrated. I think they're still super undervalued, to be honest. But
it's tough. I mean, so like I was buying them. So I sold a few of my Charizards at like the PSA 9s, and I think I sold one PSA 10. I think I was selling them for around $1,500 each, and I bought them about 4 years earlier for about $50 to $150. So they did explode, but not necessarily more when all things were said and done than Wizards of the Coast. It was sort of interesting, or the Wizards of the Coast era. A lot of things moved kind of similarly. But I'm not sure what they are right now. I think the last time I looked, it was like 11-ish hundred. They're pretty low pop. You know, it's pretty hard to grade those. Particularly the Top Zone prisms are very difficult if you're familiar with those.
I am.
That's the crazy one, that Charizard, you know, the no number Top Zone 9 that sold for like $500,000. And everyone who understood that part of the hobby was like, what? Like, oh my God, you know, that was never something that was particularly desirable before. And, you know, all of a sudden there was sort of a market for this. So you know, and then I really like Shiny GX in particular, more than Hidden Fates. I tend to move more towards Japanese for modern in terms of what I really like the most, but I like everything and try to collect everything. And it just did a lot of selling, a lot of buying of collections, flipping parts of the collections, keeping a bunch of it to kind of build what I have over time. And I'm also a big DBZ. I have Magic Alpha stuff. I collect a lot, tons of different TCGs. I also collect stuff from like the 1930s, 40s, 50s, like Disney stuff. And I'm a big
everybody's mom's company wants TCGs. You remember that crazy boom back then? Everything had a TCG.
Yeah. So big collector. And for me, it's always been about, because I sort of like everything, it's always just been about where do I feel the most value is in a lot of ways. And then I'm just very patient. So I will buy stuff that I feel like is at the moment kind of undervalued or underappreciated. And the stuff that I think is a little bit overvalued or most people's attention is on, I'll just wait until that dies down, and then I'll collect that or move into that. And that's how I've always kind of moved in and out of things throughout the hobby. How about yourself? Do you have like personal collection goals you're working on right now? Are you do you not really, and you're more focusing on business? Where are you at?
For me, I do collect a bunch of different things. I mean, life got a little bit busier with having a kid recently, but I do. I'm more of a spur of the moment kind of collector. You know, like when I see different things I want to collect. So just like you, kind of been all throughout the hobby, right? Sometimes it was like Cardass. One of the biggest goals that I had for a little while was to try to do every master set from base set all the way up to diamond and pearl. So I have the core of a lot of them, but there are like missing holes. I've just been so busy with like streaming and doing other things. I just don't have the time to go find the singles out there and finish those sets, but I do want to finish those. So that's definitely a big goal for me. Other than that, yeah, I'm just really, really random with what I collect, right? Vending series, you know, booster boxes from different eras, Diamond and Pearl to, you know, Wizards of the Coast. I'm just kind of everywhere when it comes to
Are you usually kind of just looking for good deals and then you purchase sort of whatever comes up on good deal, or do you more target?
That's kind of it. Yeah, that's kind of it. If I see cards that I see deals that are, you know, solid, or I see cards that I know are very popular and I know they'll do good in the long run. Obviously, if it's a good deal, I won't turn it down, right? I'll definitely, you know, pick them up. Yeah. But, you know, I like to collect, like I told you, things that have like a story behind it. So oftentimes a lot of the Japanese things tend to have more story behind them than English products. So that's usually what I'll lean towards. But a lot of them have, like you said, have gotten very popular and they're at kind of the high points right now. So, you know, it's hard to find good deals. And I feel like even if you find a good deal, I mean, because it's at its high point, you're probably buying the price that it would be maybe later on when the hype kind of dies down. So yeah, it's hard to say. Like I said, I'm a big window shopper, right? Collect things with a story. Yeah.
So do you generally then move more towards like promos with interesting distribution stories or trophies with interesting historical stories more than like set cards, which don't necessarily have much of a story? I mean, the set itself, like obviously a set like Hidden Fates, its story is it was an amazing set that came at a historic, you know, fairly huge time in the hobby, and just like sort of Evolutions did for a number of people in 2016, kind of brought a lot of people back, or was a lot of people's kind of first set, you know, So do you like, when you say the stories, is it that, you know, I like the way the Masaki promos are released? I think it's kind of cool piece of Pokemon.
Yeah, history. like that would be a story behind it as well. But like the added effect is maybe the person I potentially buy it from, or the
personal story,
the way I obtained it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's both. It's both. It's a combination of both. So that's why when it comes down to like, what am I actually going for right now? I can give you the gist of my goals, like master sets, right? Or a gold stars. Like I have a bunch of different gold stars that are raw. I mean, I just want to get a whole set in like, you know, solid condition, you know, near mint. Those are like goals I have. But when I'm actually looking for something that's actually in my personal collection, it's a little bit different as well. I think another one that I didn't mention now that is kind of something that I'm collecting is actually the Shadowless Zard, right? Base set Shadowless Zard 1 through 10, right? PSA 1 through 10. Right now I have, the reason why I'm collecting it is because the story behind it, I had a bunch of Shadowless Zards and I decided to submit them, right? I submitted them, I think last year, just to get them graded. Because I was like, okay, I mean, things crazy. I'm going to submit these. I'm going to get them graded. I'm just going to sell them. You know what I mean? It's crazy right now. I submitted them. And when they came back, I got a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I was like, no way. Like, what is this, dude? Like, there's no way. So I very recently picked up a 3 and now I just need a 1, 2, and obviously the 10. But yeah, so that's like something that I am collecting that, you know, kind of has a story behind it as well because of that. Yeah.
Do you buy things for resale ever, or is your business more just around the content creation and opening packs for people? We
do breaks on the channel. So
yeah,
I content create. I'm a streamer, and I'm in kind of a weird or very, I guess you can say, good position where I can already, you know, put food on the table, right, and pay my bills and stuff like that as a streamer. So we started doing breaks and things like that. And what defines or makes us different from other breakers, I would say, out there is that we kind of more towards the quality than the quantity of breaks. You know, like I'm there to hang out, chit chat, try to, you know, get the pulls you're going for, have a good time, and, you know, money that we can make from the breaks. We typically use that for different bonuses that we put into people's packages, right? Giveaways that we do thousands of dollars of giveaways like all the time, right? As well as we do other things in the community together, right? Like different charity events that we want to do. Like last year, we donated to a organization called Water Wells for Africa, and it was pretty cool. We donated some shirts and stuff, and they built an entire water well for a village. And one of my community members actually works on that. And he was actually there and he filmed it. So we got to see the faces of the people we actually got to help too, with like, you know, the Island Grown shirts and stickers. So I want to do bigger things like that in the future because I'm grateful I'm in that position. I'm able to do it, right? It's kind of like a mini Mr. Beast, right? I can survive with my things. So if we can make some money and do some bigger projects together as a community, then why not, right? That's kind of the goal that we have. And I think that's what really brings the community together and kind of brings people to be like, hey, I want to support him as a content creator. I want to, be a part of the breaks and have a good time, a part of his channel, not just go and get packs open, right? Because let's be real. I tell people all the time, well, you can buy packs from me, but let's be real. I know you can just go to the store and buy packs yourself, right? What is the reason you want to be here? I got to give you a reason to want to be a part of the community and be a part of the breaks. So that's pretty much how it is. Yep.
That's business model. Yeah. I think having ideally, right. I mean, I think a very ethical business model in Pokemon, and I've seen a variety of them this year, some that I deemed very unethical from certain pack breakers and streamers and different sorts of things. But I think the unethical ones for me were the ones who were telling people to invest in the very product that they were directly selling to them all the time. And it felt that they weren't necessarily providing like entertainment or community, and maybe they were to some extent, but that a lot of the reason people were buying or willing to pay higher prices was because they were being told directly that like, you will make money on this if you hold it. And even streamers and different people sort of like guaranteeing that. And of course, a lot of people got burned, and in your position, you have to be concerned about that. You have to be concerned about, addiction, gambling addiction, people, spending outside their means, all these types of things that there is no clear, it's all part of your business model, is trying to figure out for yourself, I think, ethically, sort of, what do you do about that? Do I cut people off? Am I careful to say things periodically? Like,
I think that's important, going back to what
this is for fun ultimately, and not to get, just kind of how you started today, collect what you love, make sure you're really enjoying this. And part of the reason I'm having you on is, frankly, you seem like a really nice guy, and I watched you in the stream a little bit and seemed very caring for your community. So my negativity has never been about like, selling packs at somewhat of a premium to people where there's a little bit of room there, for the streamer to make money, and then also sell their merchandise, grow their content creation, and get money from memberships and like all of the streams. I'm all for it, as long as it, from an outside perspective, feels like it's a win-win for everyone involved. And it sounds like that's your goal, right? It's like, I take very seriously as a business person, or that my model needs to be a community and fun and enjoyable, where people are learning, people are making good decisions, and they're not opening packs alone or collecting alone, like a lot of people might. And I'm not, price gouging or taking advantage, or and then these types of things. So how do you, what do you think of everything I just said? Is this stuff that you've thought about this year, that you think about?
This is stuff that is around the hobby for sure. But I think that's why I think the way I've built the community, right? And I've started not just from like, hey guys, my name's Island Girl, we do pack breaks. You know what I mean? I've built my community from back in the day. So the core values of what I believe in and what people know me for is what started it all, right? So I didn't just start off just doing pack breaks and things like that. But I think you're right. I would see it. I see that more in the sports realm, when people go, oh, you buy this, you could pull a $10,000, whatever it is, right? I don't see it as much in Pokemon, where somebody goes, hey, well, buy this, Fusion Strike box, you can pull the 300. I don't see that very often, but maybe there are people that do that. I do think that's wrong, right? I never do that. We try to not, we don't really talk about prices too often. You know what I mean? Sometimes in our videos, we'll put up the value of what it is at a PSA 9 or 10, but we don't talk about the value as like, oh, you just made money, or, oh, you just, made money off that pack, or things like that. It's more of the experience, and that's how it's always been. So I think what you're saying does happen in the hobby, but we definitely take that, kind of seriously in our community. We make sure that everybody has a good time, right? And everybody knows that, they're buying into, having fun, and it's not, they're opening packs for the enjoyment is what it always comes down to. I don't think I've ever felt that actually, where somebody bought in to try to make money off of any of the breaks that I've done ever, right? They're more down to either A, have a good time, or B, because they want to support the community or the content creator, right? Which is, their choice if they want to do that, right? So.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. And I think often you're doing that because you really appreciate them, and they've helped you, and what they've built has helped them, have community or enjoy it. I mean, obviously drawing the line between that and like the parasocial relationships that can happen, on Twitch or online or so. I mean, it's an important topic just for people to be thinking about. There isn't necessarily an answer as far as like, this is okay, this isn't okay, in all situations, but
anybody can do whatever they want. But if you think about it, if somebody is a smart content creator, right, and they want to develop and grow the right community, it is always more important to make sure that you're always giving. Right. End of the day, if you are more giving and you continue to grow your community, people will always want to support you, and that will help you out in the long run. Right. Don't look at the short term, look at the long term. Right. They'll be there to support you so you can keep doing what you're doing as a streamer or a YouTuber in the long run, not just 1 year, 2 years, but maybe 5 years, 10 years. Right. I mean, I'm up to 5 years of streaming now, but I hope to be able to, I know I'm in a very blessed position to do what I do. I hope I could continue creating content and continue to do this wherever it leads us as time goes on. Right. I invest back in the community for the long term, not the short term. But maybe this seems common sense to me, but it doesn't seem common sense to other content creators. They're only trying to make as much money as they can now and take it from their viewers or the community. But I don't see it that way. I think that's a stupider way to do it, right? If you just, you want to survive in the long run, that's just a stupider way. That doesn't make any sense. No.
Yeah. And I think part of it has to do with belief, right? So part of it is, do I actually believe that that will work? Do I actually believe that the Pokemon hobby will be here for the foreseeable future? I think some people this year probably were like, I have no idea, and I need to capitalize and make as much money on people on my audience as much as I possibly can in a short run. And a number of those people are already gone from the hobby, by the way. And some of the people I'm talking about who I saw do things like that have left.
Right.
So it's
not wrong though. You're not wrong about capitalizing, but it's just how you capitalize, right? Like in my view, if you, in that aspect, I now that I think back, when Pokemon was crazy, in my mind, I said, I want to capitalize on this, but differently. I want to capitalize on this in terms of streaming more hours, creating more content to grab as much people into my community as I can before, maybe Pokemon fizzles out, right? And then growing that community is what, will again, help you in the long term as well. So I have to say I have capitalized on that and tried to capitalize on that, but not for monetary, benefit, I guess you can say. Yeah.
Well, I think there are always tensions between you wanting to do something that you enjoy, you wanting to make money, and you wanting to do stuff for other people that other people appreciate. And that's called being a human being, is having those three,
That's why I said common sense for you and me, but I guess not some other people in the world, man. Yeah.
Any job has those elements, whether you're a streamer or anything else can have those elements. So I do think that why it's been more important to talk about this year is because of the explosion of the money and the value. It attracted people who were both more susceptible to sort of get rich quick type things, and also people who go from one space to the next and try to basically do that. And that's they kind of go to sort of the hype sort of space. But
well, let me ask you this though.
Please.
So you feel like, there are some people out there that are trying to capitalize on, making money, and them as being a content creator, trying to sell people on, hey, you could make money off this or something. But I think where a lot of content creators are, even larger content creators, really big content creators, where they capitalize is that, hey, especially for Pokemon, I am the one opening your pack, and this is how much I want to charge. Will you pay that premium because I'm opening it? And do you think that is something that's wrong or not? Because I'm sure someone that asks you or me to open up a Fusion Strike pack, for $4, I mean, how much would you pay for Barack Obama to open up a Fusion Strike pack? It would be more, right? Where is it wrong and where is it not? That's the issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, these things are just in society, right? I mean, fame, popularity, right? And that's where we get into sort of, in our culture, paying for fame or paying for rather than specific skill or ability related to the specific thing. So, for example, like I watched your stream tonight. You are a very skilled streamer in the sense that you're very good at you're very good at engaging in chat. You're very kind and patient with people. You can be asked the same question a bunch of times or on multiple nights and give like helpful, kind answers. And that takes work and effort and skill and ability and time and care. Like that is a job, in a lot of ways, right? So there's a skill and an ability, and it's a job to stream, and you're doing a variety of different things, not to mention sourcing the product, building up the connection, shipping everything out. I mean, there's also those pieces too. So there's a lot of skill and ability that goes into like being entertaining, being enjoyable, right? But people can also do it from a very different sort of shortcutty way, right? Of just like having none of those skills and abilities, but having maybe some either like coming out and making outrageous promises, doing, fake giveaways or fake, there's like, deceitful sort of things where you don't actually, I actually have Pokemon knowledge and spend every day analyzing the prices and don't take shortcuts, around, posturing or pretending that I'm something that I'm not, or that I've done something that I'm not. And so I think that when we say capitalizing can sound like bad or manipulative, depending on how we mean that word, but like you saying, I have these skills and abilities, I love Pokemon, and this would be a great move for me professionally, and I have a lot to offer, is wonderful entrepreneurship and starting a successful business that is good, for the community. It helps the community broadly, and honestly, you help Pokemon sustain itself and grow. All the other content creators who are creating businesses that are not mistreating people helps it sustain itself and be a more fun hobby and brings new people into the hobby constantly. So there's a lot of good that happens. Now how you decide exactly what prices I'm going to sell, things that how much margin I want to make, how much I want to give away. It's like, these are personal decisions, that every business person, that everyone is going to do differently. That I have much less of a problem with. And we could bicker slightly on like, I think you charge a little bit too high for this or whatever, sure. And people are going to have their opinions, but I put that in a very different category than people who really have no knowledge, were lying and making stuff up on streams, had no interest in Pokemon, and were, and I saw that this year. But again, that was
we've had a few this year. We've had a few names this year. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was more during the height, and because that's what happens. It's less of an issue now, but yeah, no, it's an interesting topic. I mean, it's definitely one we've talked a lot about, on this channel.
People love hearing about it, dude. Let's be real. It's a topic people love to hear people discuss about, for sure.
It's caused a lot of the tension really in the hobby this year, right? I mean, this is the topic that I think has caused a lot of the toxicity, a lot of the tension. People feeling that people are labeling some people as scammers who maybe aren't, or being too hard on some people, like someone like Enlisted Leaf, is a good example where he does that one thing where he charges way too much. He didn't apologize and handle it in the best way. I think there are ways to handle these things. Like if he had come out and said, I apologize, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to go back to what I've been doing for 7 years, which is entertaining. And next time I do this, I'm going to charge not as insane, absurdly high. And I'm going to be there actually opening the packs because that's what you're paying for. Or I'm going to make sure there aren't these 4 random guys on the screen quickly going through and or whatever. Right. Yeah. So, but that's a learning experience. But here's someone who has helped grow the hobby for 5 years or whatever, when the hobby was not that popular, has a humongous channel and has inspired lots of Pokemon fans over the years. And it's kind of putting him in the same category as someone here who is here for a few months to scam people. It's like, so these are dramatically different people, but you have people online who just want to group. It's like, and just want to be angry at anyone making money.
Hate watchers, as they like to call them. Hate watchers. Yeah.
And if you're making money, you're bad. If you're making money, you're bad. But for some reason, they're okay with the Pokemon company making money. they're fine with that.
Yeah. There's a lot of hypocritical situations when you look at it, but there's always going to be hate watchers. You know what I mean? And it is unfair for like people like that have been a part of the hobby to maybe make a mistake or, nothing too crazy and be put in that same category as other people, which is a crazier magnitude. It's just mind boggling. You're right. But the world's a crazy place, man. Sometimes life is just not fair. You know what I mean? And it's just ridiculous. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. How has it been for you over the years? Cause I mean, you're, I'm someone who like, I don't view myself as a content creator influencer, even though I've been doing it for a while now, but I don't view myself as someone who has a real skill or ability in that sort of thing, or really sees myself or wants to be like necessarily a big channel and is trying to make this sustainable for myself in different ways. But as someone who, you know, has had a big channel,
don't sell yourself too short there, but okay.
Sure. No, I think a lot of this is sort of what I want too. It's not, you know, I've started a Patreon and a system where I can make money and start a business in a way that doesn't require huge views or chasing after views with, you know, like I can talk about what I want and when I want, you know, these types of business models, rather than what you have to do, you know, when you're actually making money off of your views and you're a professional at this, which is you have to be really, you know, you have to analyze and edit your videos and figure out exactly when retention goes down, you know, just as like Mr. Beast would explain so eloquently, you know. So what has it been like for you? I'm interested in your experience in that and trying to become maybe more skilled in this sphere that you do as a, and is this your full time? Are you like a professional content creator? Is this your full time?
Yeah, I do it full time. Yeah. So I told you before I was an accountant, but then I did streaming part time, and then we jumped full time, and we've been full time for about 4 or 5 years. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm interested. I guess I'm interested in 3 things. One, I'm interested. And then I know you need to go, so maybe we'll
no, it's fine. I'm chilling. I'm vibing. So you tell me when you gotta go. You're the one that's like at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So you
1:24 a.m. Sure. I was a little groggy in the beginning, and now my brain's starting to wake up. It's usually how I go.
Pokemon, man. It's always exciting to talk about Pokemon. I love talking about Pokemon. Yeah. So
yeah. I guess to start, what got you interested in being a content creator, or did it start like that immediately, or did it sort of grow over time that you became kind of more interested in, oh, I'm going to really do this? What was that like for you?
So where it started for me, like I told you, I started playing other games, like mobile games. I started wanting to stream just on the platform because, you know, I've watched other streamers. I just want to stream just like any other person who starts streaming, right? I just wanted to stream, but I was very good at a particular game, and I wanted to stream and share that knowledge with other people. That was the main goal. Kind of like you, right? You created a channel to share knowledge with other people. That's where it all started. And as that continued to grow, me personally, I'm pretty outgoing. I'd like to say this is how I am IRL too. I'm just like, I'm the wacko. Okay. I'm super weird. All right. But I just hanging out. I love talking to people. I love having a good time. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what a kind of streamer does, right? When they kind of content create. So it kind of was a good fit for me. And I felt as I continued to share knowledge and play games and stream, I built a community around it. And by building that community, I had that, you know, that drive to want to continue doing that and continue building the community even more and more, getting people to come together, hang out, play games, talk about life, talk about the world. We focus a lot on good vibes, right? We're a lot of positivity for my channel there. So we focus a lot on that just because the world's already a crazy place. So a place people can just come and hang out. And that's kind of how I started. So a mixture of wanting to share knowledge, streaming, and me personally, that it just fits with what, you know, content creating is. That's how it all started. Yep.
So sharing knowledge and trying to create an environment where people can relax and feel good and feel positive, and kind of and not feel the stress or the anxiety or whatever that they might have.
Whatever's going on, you know, they may have world or family problems, things are going on, but at least they know, hey, I come watch some streams, play some games, and just chill for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do you feel like, how have you dealt with criticism and negativity? I don't know if I'm sure you have as a big streamer, as someone who's, what has that process been like for you? You know, because we were talking about some of the negativity and I think unfair toxicity levied at certain large content creators in Pokemon this year. What has that been like for you in sort of your career? How have you dealt with it? What does it look like? What does the hate look like, or where does it come from?
It's crazy, man. The haters, they're always going to be there. And as you get larger, people say that the more haters you have, the larger of a content creator you are. So maybe you should take it that way as well. But there will always be people that will always not like you. This is just how the world works, right? You just have to just keep doing you, stay true to what you're doing, know what you're doing is right, right? There comes a point where, you know, I think human nature is always to try to get the acceptance of other people, right? To prove to other people that you are doing things right. But when it gets to a magnitude where you're such a large content creator, you just have to remember that you need to know that you are doing things right. And you are, you know, sticking true to who you are. And you just got to keep doing you, no matter what kind of hate or negativity you get. And that's also one of the reasons why I started my community with a lot of positivity, because a lot of times when you have a group or community of people that are just so positive, maybe just so weird and positive, it kind of actually deters people with that different in thinking or negativity. It just automatically kind of deters them already, so they don't even want to hang around. So it's something I noticed that is my saving grace as I've gotten larger and larger as a content creator, that really has, you know, radiated out, where it kind of keeps a lot of the negativity away from my community automatically, just because of the way my community is. So yeah.
I think one thing that's been interesting about my experience and my journey is, I think that, so I'm very interested in debate and critiquing, which can easily become very negative. Like there's a lot of like nuance in how do you do that in a way that is interesting and thought provoking, and where people grow and start to understand things. In a way that doesn't become too competitive, argumentative, or not productive, like almost like non-productive negativity or criticalness versus like productive criticism or criticalness.
Yeah, people are just arguing to argue, right? It gets to that sometimes.
Yeah, or just having like very radical, unreasonable takes, and then having the ego to just be like, I'm 100% right about anything, you know, these types of things. And so I guess before I go more into that, so what has it been like for you? So have you found that as you got bigger, you got more people? I mean, one thing I think about is there seems to be sort of, when someone gets bigger, the people who don't like them just hate them more and more and more, because there's this cognitive dissonance that happens of like, this person's becoming successful, but they're bad. And so as they get bigger, you kind of like hate them more and more and more and become more resentful of them, even though they're like they're the exact same person like that they were before, doing the exact same thing. But there's almost the hate or the anger, of the people success. Watching, or of the success, or all these sorts of things. I think that's very true. It's something that Rudy, did you ever watch Rudy from Alpha Investments?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Like the level of hate, I think where the problem becomes, and something I've seen in creators, and I've been critical of other creators at times, and they've responded to me in ways that are sort of like, I'm just right, rather than being open to sort of like having that more nuanced discussion about it. And I think it probably comes from that you can almost become walled off of like, I can't take criticism because I get so much of it that I like can't really listen to it, or I need to ignore it. I wonder, does any of that resonate with you? Like, how do you?
I mean, some aspects of that definitely, for sure. I mean, there's a saying, right? There's a saying that haters are going to hate, and it's true, because I mean, if people like, the world is filled with a lot of different people. If somebody doesn't like you already, for whatever the reason it is, right? Even if let's say I don't like you because of a specific reason, right? I don't like you because you hate dogs. Let's just make that up, right? Sure. And then in the future, as time goes on, I find out, you know, that you actually do love dogs. Well, the beginning factor of me hating you because of a reason will make me hate more now you, because like I was wrong. You know what I mean? That feeling of being wrong, you know, people just, if they hate you, they're just always going to hate you. You can't change that. You got to do your own thing, live your own thing, and just keep going, man. Like there's always going to be people that hate, right? Always going to be people that hate. And honestly, I tell to all the haters out there, I'll be honest, I tell them one thing all the time. I don't know if they like it or not, but I tell them, you know what? I envy the haters out there. You're in a position in your life where, you know, you're not stressed enough and you don't have other things going on in your life that you can actually have the time to hate somebody. I envy you. You know what I mean? I'm so busy. I got no time to really hate on anybody, man. I just do my own thing, man. Yeah. Like you got time to do that, man. I wish I had more time like you, right? To spend the time and hate and whatever it is.
That's one way to look at it. I feel like when someone is really angry, I tend to feel, so I'm a therapist. And I'm a social worker and a therapist in my day job. Okay. That's what I do. So that definitely informs the way that I view people and interact with the world 100%. We all come from our perspectives and experiences.
Right.
And, for me, I like when someone there's this weird sort of thing, like particularly when I was newer at this, and I would get like, I would get like a death threat or someone saying to me, I hope that you and your girlfriend, I hope your girlfriend breaks up with you and like you die alone and you die soon. And like all these bad things happen to you because of it, because they like disagreed with my like feelings on Pokemon or on a influencer or a content creator.
That's crazy.
And my instinct would be to reach out to them and talk with them and engage with them.
Reason, man.
because I was like concerned. It was like I'm just interested as a psychologist of like what like how do you see me that sort of reaction came out? Like, what do you like? Who do you think that I am, or what I stand for? That was sort of the reaction that like came out of you, that you felt like
sometimes that's kind of bad too, because like, you know, there's no logic to some of that madness. And sometimes by reaching out or giving them what they want, responding to them is exactly what they want. Right. Sometimes people just, that's why the haters, I kind of just ignore them. You know what I mean? To a certain extent, because if you give them, you know, you address them and you give them the light of day, that's what they want. Right. So why would I give somebody what they want when they're acting like that? Right. I'd rather spend that time to other people and give them the time of my day that, you know, I feel deserves it. So
no, it's super valid. Super interesting.
I've gotten some of those death threats as well, man. It's pretty crazy. Yes, it's pretty crazy, but it's just people feel no repercussion online. Right. They're under the username Tennis Boy 69. You know what I mean? They can type whatever they want with no repercussions at all. So people will say ridiculous things like that. It's crazy. Yeah.
The other part of me, though, says like we have a humongous responsibility. Like when I'm a therapist, I'm working extremely hard to be good at what I do with one individual. When I come online, I am affecting thousands of people who watch my channel, you know, tens of thousands potentially. And it's like, it's this crazy sort of thing, the social media thing, and how much impact your words, like what you do, has. And the amount of lives that you're sort of in some, you know, many people, it's very small. It's like, here's this random dude I know nothing about. Jake, shut up. Just tell me what Pokemon card to buy. I don't really care. Right. Some people are going to watch your channel that way. Some people get very personally invested or involved or connected to the person or you know, in my space, because we've developed a Patreon and a Discord, people are becoming friends with each other. And there's a community where people are talking and hanging out and developing friendships there. And it's this so when someone has a really negative reaction to me, there's also a big part of me that's like, wow, let me see if I can like improve, right? Like, is there like, let me put myself in this person's shoes and understand where that's coming from and see if I can constantly sort of improve so that I'm limiting that or I'm understanding that. When content creators say like, you know, and you said like haters are going to hate and these types of things, like I've seen lots of examples where like people are being called haters who I think are giving like really good constructive criticism and reasonable criticism about like the content creator not being very ethical, you know, or not setting the best like example as a human being, you know, and them just kind of couching it as like hate and we just need to cancel that. It gets into these weird spaces of like, there's like the toxic positivity and toxic negativity. So you have like a bunch of people over here who are like full of hatred that is just very unreasonable. And they need to like probably talk to a therapist to try to figure out like what is going on in their own life that like they're feeling that way and they're feeling inadequate, or I'm making them feel inadequate or bad about themselves. But then you also have these like content creators that I feel like are living in their own sort of make-believe universe too. And so I don't know. And again, we're not talking about any specific content creators. I'm not necessarily talking about you or any of your friends or, you know, any of these things, but just from someone who I'm sure has also absorbed a lot of content. Do you feel that way? Like with content creators who you feel like have made videos or done things that have, you know, I mean, we can take like crypto people, right? Pump and dump schemes. I mean, these people are getting investigated by the FBI. People who came
that's
on,
terrible. That's your
pumped up a crypto
your modern scams that I guess are accepted and right now, but not really. I don't know. It's just
so it's like our haters of those just hating, you know, or those, you know what I mean? And like, where do you draw that line? So do you feel like you get constructive criticism sometimes, or do you feel like, and you might be in a situation where like you're just a really positive, upbeat guy and really don't deserve any criticism for anything. And that may be very.
I get a lot of criticism, man, all the time. But I always take it in. I think that's the one big benefit as well, right? I take in the criticism, and it usually works out. It's usually pretty simple because I keep things straightforward and transparent. If somebody's going to come in and do something, you know, hateful or whatnot, I mean, obviously you can tell, right? If somebody's coming in for criticism, I can obviously tell as well, right? But that might be only unique to the ecosystem that I've created in my community, right? So it really depends, but it's tough. I see exactly what you're saying. Things can be misinterpreted, you know what I mean? But you have to also think in the content creator's perspective, if they're getting a lot of hate, even someone with constructive criticism is going to look like, you know what I mean, immediately in their head, right? So it's all perspective. Yeah.
And I've been overreactive, to that exact same point. Someone wanted to enter like an honest debate with me once in the chat, or in the a couple times in the chat on this channel, and then once in the comment section. But I had gotten so many unreasonable comments and people yelling at me that I like answered in sort of like an agitated tone, and the person was like, "Oh my god, like I didn't mean to like be a jerk." And it was like, and then I reread it and I was like, "No, you didn't. You asked something completely reasonable, and I just read it that way." So
that's why words are tough sometimes, especially online, right? You can't tell the tone or the emotion somebody has through online, so got to give benefit of doubt. Yeah.
Like big content creators, like people, I mean, you're a big content creator, but people like, also like Mizkif, and you said you're friends with Train and stuff. I mean, the amount of responsibility of like being in front of that many people, and like, it's a wild job. And the amount of skill, because it's also, there's a lot of skill in that, I think, of there's
a lot more than people give credit for. Yeah.
And of knowing like how to deal with the hate or the negativity in a way that helps them grow. It doesn't block it out, but like also doesn't bog them down in their own personal lives. It's super fascinating. Yeah.
I love this stuff. These conversations are definitely fun. This is not stuff that you typically hear too often and people, really talk about. So it's kind of nice sometimes, right? It's something that I would say a lot of viewers never really think about. A lot of viewers don't really, fully understand it, right? As the stress and psychological things that, content creators got to go through. For sure.
Yeah. I think like it's part of why I've always been like, it's really important for everyone to want everyone to succeed in life. And if you find yourself hating a content creator, even someone who's done a lot of terrible things, and wanting something bad to happen to them, you are probably irrational at that moment. And you need to kind of like, so it's one thing I say a lot, right? It's like, if you don't like something about me or like something about Island Grown, to the point where you want us to fail, like you need to take a look at like what is motivating that, rather than wanting us to change in a way that benefits us and benefits you as the viewer. And
I envy them. They got enough time in the day to do that. I envy them, dude. I don't got enough time in the day, man. Like, I swear, dude. Sometimes I just want like an extra hour in the day, man. Just tell me how much it costs, man. Let me just buy an extra hour, dude. Because like, I got that kind of time, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I know you wanted to go at some point. How you doing for time?
I'm good. I'm chilling. I mean, like just like you as well. I mean, I enjoy vibing out, so it's fun. Okay, chilling. Yeah, as long as you're cool. Yeah.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna take a look at chat here and see if they have any.
Yeah, maybe we can pull some questions from people in chat. We talked a lot of things with you guys on the stream here chat. So if you had questions on any of those things, you should bring it up to discuss. Great time to answer some questions. I love answering questions. Well, I do it every day, but I love answering questions. Yeah.
I think about a lot of this stuff too, just in politics. And I mean, the politics Twitch space, like the streaming space there, it's
crazy.
What an example of like toxic negativity and toxic positivity, creating this like weird sort of worship culture of certain figures, and then weird sort of hatred culture of the same figures around people with like opposing viewpoints. It is wild.
The whole culture. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, social media is just amazing that people can like someone can come on and talk to so many people, and then everyone can communicate and be affected by that experience. It's just fascinating to me.
It is. It definitely is. I mean, imagine a world where we didn't have social media. I mean, you imagine how slow, how primitive we would be in what we do. So it's pretty awesome.
I mean, from a market standpoint, it's part of why I think, so I have arguments with certain older people who have been in pop culture collectibles for a long time. And one of the things about pop culture collectibles is historically they have a certain window where they resonate with the fan base. And then once that fan base gets older and dies, and or becomes uninterested, it dies. It's not like a company or some sort of asset that is going to continuously become valuable forever. It's very dependent on demand, which is more of a subjective sort of. Not ever, food is always going to have value, whether you care about food or not. Emotionally, you need to eat food.
You need to,
right? These types of things. But one thing with social media is, I think social media, the reason that these hobbies are blowing up so much is because we've never had pop culture collectible hobbies mixed with social media like this in human history. And the amount of connectivity and community, like the fact that people can hang out in this stream, is a whole new element to what makes collecting enjoyable that didn't exist before. You know, collecting was largely a very solo activity, and then you would go to shows and you might show your collection off to a few people.
Go to the store or whatever, but now it's all online. You can share and do so many different things.
Yeah. And the value that brings and the connectivity, you know, and then the potential kind of like, you know, market value and things getting pricier and bringing more people in, I think is amazing. And I think is what some of these people I think are missing when they think, you know, when they call things fads in too critical of a way. Although I'm always very careful with, you know, that demand is very, very difficult to predict. You know, future demand in Pokemon is very difficult to predict. And it's why collecting what you love and not risking or buying things that you can't afford, you know, is I think so.
I would say Pokemon's hard to predict, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you just lay down the facts, right? It's the biggest IP in the world. It's, you know, Pokemon Evolved, people are always collecting. It's going to be there. So if you're worried about starting to collect something or joining almost like a group, right? Pokemon, this is probably one of the best groups you can join in the world that will be here, right? I always tell people, if in the future Pokemon just like disappears, I would not even be that worried about it, because I think we'd have some other big world problem to why Pokemon disappeared, man. It's like the biggest IP, right? If they fall and they crash, something's happening in the world that is even more drastic than that.
Right? The problem with that is it has been the biggest IP for not that long, and it's only been in existence for 25 years. And cards and collecting cards may not be relevant to people's lives in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. We don't know.
Maybe not.
True. You know, so there are lots of things, like we both have to have Pokemon last and for cards to be the things that people like really want within Pokemon. Granted, I'm completely on board with all of the positives. Biggest IP, right. It's young. We're just going to have more and more money into the hobby. Pokemon is a phenomenal company. I'm big on the future. I think investing in Pokemon or speculating in Pokemon, there's a lot of positives and reasons. But I do think that people who have not had experience in other pop culture collectibles and seen how, and this is true for stocks and companies, by the way, too. 25 years ago, Japanese companies were the biggest companies in the world. You know, now we have a whole set of brand new companies that were tiny that are now at the top of the S&P 500, right? It's amazing what 20, 25 years can change in things. And the Pokemon company, but it's not going to be like overnight is one of the key things to think about. You're going to see
things
Pokemon,
evolve, right? Things will evolve. And if things evolve, let's say where Pokemon is no longer maybe just like collecting the actual physical cards, it'll evolve into something else. You know what I mean? Because Pokemon will follow. They're very conservative. They might be slow, but they will follow. Imagine in the future, let's just example, you know, your cards, nobody collects a card anymore, but you use it and you scan it in, and Pokemon, let's just pretend. I'm not into NFTs. I don't have crypto. What if you scan it in, and then after that Pokemon, now it's digitally that you collect it, right? It's the same thing, but then you change the physical to digital. So the future will always be there. Pokemon, I think, will be here. Pretty much
100% PSA will do that. Like PSA will start to do that. Yeah. Their incentive is to do that in order to, they want the cards to retain value because that's the core of their business. And so that they'll help make those types of things happen.
Right.
So that I certainly agree with. Although I do think that there could be other IPs and new things that come in the next 5, 10, 15 years that might end up being the biggest IP in the world. And might be, maybe. But I'm thinking.
I don't collect Metazoo. It was kind of a meme, but also kind of maybe. It's like an example. Sure.
Yeah, and I think it could be, but I think more likely something like Fortnite. Just in terms of being the biggest IP, things that might be more relevant to kids.
Biggest IP, I guarantee you, if there's any of it in that realm, I guarantee you Riot Games will literally be the next one, because they dominate every game platform they do. Whether it's a shooter, Valorant. Whether it's MOBA, League. Whether it's the auto chess, it's TFT. It'll definitely be Riot. Right? I don't know about Fortnite.
And this is where
And
this is where I don't know, but this is where video games might be the bigger collectible item, and video games from specific companies that are the biggest, so it's just one of these things that we just don't know. We can't predict that. And so all you can do is sort of be smart, which you are, of like, okay, these are all the reasons why it'll probably still be here, or very likely will still be here. I do think there is a group of people though, who like have a bit of irrational exuberance around like, it will definitely 100% and there is zero chance. And so no matter what, if I buy this product now, it will be $500 in 5 to 10 years, no matter how much it's printed, all these types of things. And it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad bet even for certain items that'll be true. It's not like it's a bad bet, but understanding that you're taking a risk. And so not betting the farm. And that's why you don't want people, really crippling themselves if that doesn't happen. At least I don't. That's where I come from with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing to look at the future is, again, going back to what I like to collect, right? Memories and stories. I mean, maybe what it is maybe looking into the kids nowadays, seeing what their memories are, their stories are, and that is going to be the next thing that is in the future, right? Pokemon's only crazy now because we had the memories and stories back then. But what about this next generation coming up, right? What are they mostly into? And I think you're right. Maybe Fortnite, whatever the things are, that might be the, the big speculative thing for the future, whatever that will be. So if they're into collecting cards now, then I think the collectible will definitely be on for the next generation too, for the next decade or so.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what the younger generation really likes and connects to and clings to. But obviously Pokemon, from a competitive advantage standpoint, it would have to probably mess up a lot of things and not evolve with the times. And so I think one thing with Pokemon is like, are they evolving the video games enough? This is a big question, right?
Like the release of Arceus on Friday. So see how that goes. I mean,
how are those Pokemon video games doing versus some other video games now? That because when we were kids, the competition was not a lot for video games.
True.
And so that game was like, oh my God, it was like crack.
Tetris or game. Pokemon. Like, come on, bro. Like we got a huge, huge difference,
Right. But now there's so much competition in that space.
Yes. That's
are true. They able to develop and continue to have the same market share and our kids today having the same excitement and experience playing that Pokemon video game as we did? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's these types of things that I think, when you think about it from a market standpoint, that it's sort of like, is it going to be the same type of mania and connection that we have that the kids are going to have? Even if it's going to be pretty good, how much? And then over time, is that going to strengthen? Is it going to deteriorate? And that all that stuff at a really high level, you're going to want to be watching the Pokemon company and the decisions they're making. And are they making good decisions? And of all of the companies, I think Pokemon has been the smartest. So when we compare it to like investing in like Wizards of the Coast Magic or definitely Konami, Yu-Gi-Oh, which I think Pokemon's just done such an amazing job, particularly with the cards. But
they're very smart. They're very, very smart what they do. Very conservative though, but they're very smart. Yes.
Very conservative. That is true. What do you think? Serialized cards coming?
Bro, people keep talking about serialized cards, man. I mean, like, think of it this way. How can they make serialized cards? Okay. Yeah. The reason why I don't think they will ever make serialized cards, because that goes against what they're trying to do, right? Remember, Vivid Voltage came out. How much was it a box? And what did you want them to do because it was so expensive? Print more. How do you print more product to demand if there's a serialized finite amount of a pull or a card from it, right? If you have a finite amount, let's say 100 Rainbow Pikachus, you can only print X amount. You can no longer add more. If you add more, then that means you're adding more to the serial number, which defeats the purpose, overall. So I don't think that's ever going to happen, but who knows, right? I mean, they can do whatever they want, but just with how Pokemon wants to produce product and print to the demand, right? So everybody can get product, enjoy Pokemon, because that's what they're all about, right? Warm and fuzzy, everybody having a good time. Everybody can get Pokemon at a reasonable price. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen at all. Yeah. Maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! And like you said, some of these other companies, they can, they're in a position to maybe do something like that. Sure. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a sports guy on, really great guy, last night, just who's getting into Pokemon. And we had a conversation about serialized cards. Obviously serialized is the backbone right now of the sports card market in terms of value,
rarity.
And creating that, as it's deemed manufactured rarity, sort of intentional rarity from the company rather than rarity coming from lack of interest and attrition over time.
Right.
But
did he think that Pokemon would happen in the future, or it would be healthy
I think he thought that it would probably happen. I think the majority of people think it's going to happen. I know Rudy's come out and said like it's definitely going to happen, or he thinks it'll definitely happen.
That's crazy. I mean, if it does, I'll be honest, my personal opinion, if they do make serialized as a collector, I'm low-key saying I like that. You know what I mean? I like to collect something rare. But the thing is, there's going to be that group of people that will not appreciate that, and it'd be like, oh, it's too expensive and things like that. So that's the part where it's rough, because I like to collect rare things. I like to feel special. I like to, so I mean, I'm all board on it. I'm on board. I'm on board, but
I want to gamble and get the high of pulling something that I'm never going to pull, or get the pain of never pulling.
It's not even that. It's just to be like, bro, look what I got, man. This is one of 100 in the world. Like, check this out. That's what makes it cool, right?
Sure, man.
But there's all sorts of people in the world, so some people don't care about that, right? But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I have the exact same take as you last night, and just with that, the only part is just that I worry about how it's going to be, people taking advantage of it, the way it's going to be perceived, and like how much Pokemon is going to do it, because I think that there's a right amount where it doesn't become oversaturated, but you can also oversaturate products with like, there are 100 one of 100s or 1,000 one of 100s of every different Pokemon in every different set. And then it's like, it's really not, it is one of 100 of this specific card, but there's many one of 100s. I mean, there are many cards in sports that are one of ones, one of 10s, one of 15s that are at $5, $2, even though there are only 5 in the world. And this is what I don't want the hobby to get to that point. I think that manufacturing rarity occasionally and in a smart way, but I don't know if I know what they should do. And I think that
I have a thought on what they could potentially do, just from what I think in the past. I think something that should have been serialized from the beginning and could have been serialized are trophy cards, right? Trophy cards of different tournaments from the past as well can be serialized. They already have a certain finite rarity to them, and something they can do in the future is those tournament cards, or even secondary to that, event cards, right? Things that are handed out events, maybe there's certain rarity or things that they give to you at an event, and those can be serialized, sure. But I don't know if they will, for the sake of the population, ever do that for main set, packs and booster boxes. But I can see events and tournaments having serialized trophy cards and promo cards. That is a possibility.
I mean, that I'm a trophy card collector, and so one of our frustrations is extra copies and the anxiety of how many extra copies exist and extra copies coming out of Japan and these types of things, and knowing which ones were won by the actual participants or the people who actually won. Now, for those you can tell because their name is printed on it and some other things, but versus the ones that are seem to be extra copies because no name of the winner is on it. And yeah, exactly. I'm 100% with you. The authenticity part of that, knowing exactly how many, and then if we see like 2 serial number 3s out there, like what?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't take away too much from the current ecosystem that they have. Because again, Pokemon is very conservative. So it doesn't take away from the ecosystem while giving maybe the collectors that even better feeling. I mean, trophy cards already feel like that. You know what I mean? Like you already know there's not very many and they feel rare. So you can flex them and, there's not many out there. But just add more legitimacy to it as well, just so we know, right? So
and the other thing it adds is it adds another level of collectability where people like to collect certain numbers or their favorite number in a certain number or the first one. And it also gives your specific copy its own one-of-one identity. So you have the only 47, and believe it or not, those things actually matter. Because I know that my Art Academy cards, for example, there are only 100 of them. They're more actually. They're probably 150 of each of these cards because of the extra copies that have come out, and there are probably more of them, whatever. But if I had one that had the serial number on it, and if those were serialized, I think that it would sink in more that there are only 100, and you have one of the 100 and it has this number in it, and you have that specific one, and you can track that one in terms of a pedigree. So when you see that one sell, it's like, oh, the same one. You can track it with
and then there's a story behind it. Oh, this guy owned it before this guy, and you actually know who owns what.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it is serialized number with PSA, numbering, but it adds more of an appeal to it. So I think you're right for sure. I mean, I think some of those would sell extra. I mean, number 1, number 7, number 8, number 69, number 420. Those will definitely be very popular numbers to have. But it definitely amplifies, the the hobby in that aspect with still being conservative by doing it for those types of cards. So that'd be the step that I think Pokemon would probably take in doing something like that.
I think that's smart. Yeah, I think I mean, until we sort of inevitably all move into, the metaverse, and then everything is tracked
online.
Yeah. Anything that improves sort of authenticity or being able to track things by something like serial numbers, I think is good.
I agree.
But another option, right, is them selling the rights to Topps or something to create another, a serialized Top set, or selling it to Fleer or Fanatics now that's taking over all these things, but Fanatics, and then doing a sort of, not a complete collectible set so that there's no playability to it.
That might be that's a good idea.
Is another thing. Pokemon has obviously not done anything like that since it first did it with Topps extremely early on.
Right.
So
I don't know the story behind that, if there's any fallout between them or things like that. You know what I mean? Like they had a fallout with like Wizards of the Coast. So we're never seeing Pokemon Company with Wizards of the Coast ever again. You know what I mean? But I don't know, is there fallout with Topps or not? If there wasn't, then that could be a potential, right? Let them handle it. Let them do it. Let them do serialized number, and it could be it. Yeah, I would definitely buy into it. That'd be fun. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna engage with chat here. I can do it. Let's see.
Yeah. Sometimes I've seen they have like their own conversations and stuff going on too. So
yeah, they're used to it, as we say.
I'm reading through those. So if you guys are typing chat, I'm reading some things, some little nuances you guys have.
Okay. Marcus says, let's say the metaverse comes true. What do you think about PSA rewarding NFTs to the serials so we can display our collection in the metaverse? Yeah.
So if there's a metaverse and you can display it I think that's something that would probably happen, right? I mean, that's something in the near future as well, right? Imagine, having an NFT that is associated with a card. And the moment I give you my NFT wallet, Shibuya Pikachu, because PWCC or whatever is holding it, right? You now have full ownership of it and you can claim it out, right? That is something I see is easily in the future, not just for collectibles, but any other, type of asset. I think NFTs will be linked directly to that. If, crypto NFT in this space continues to grow even more, that's going to be a no-brainer for sure. Right.
Yep, 100% agree. I think the question is, does it actually get culturally adopted, or is this a bunch of nonsense fad? And that's yet to be seen from my perspective. And then what elements are sort of a nonsense fad versus what elements really make sense? I think it makes sense personally. I think digital collectability makes a lot of psychological sense from a human level, but I do think that tying it to physical objects and then having both of those things connected just so much strengthens the collecting experience. And then you can both look at it online, but you also have the physical item. So it's not just a JPEG that you paid $100,000 for, the classic
exactly.
NFT argument,
It kind of is already, right? You can go look into somebody that wants to show you their PWCC vault and you can see exactly what they have and it's associated exactly with what they have. But being able to exchange and being able to have that more secure in some way would definitely be big for sure.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that PSA does something like that. And I agree completely with Iron. If society sort of adopts this technology and starts to use it, it's inevitable that these companies will
how we find out?
Yeah.
How we find out if the social society will accept it? How are the generations below us? Once again, how are they accepting it? Because that's the next generation. We've still become more and more of the boomers. You know what I mean? So they're going to be the ones that are going to be like, hey, this is what we're down for. We accept it and we'll do it. Then that's the world we are also going to be living in as well, right? So,
yeah. The question is does the blockchain matter that much? Because I think, do we need that for digital collectibles to be successful, or is every company?
If there's no way to hack it. If there's no way to hack it,
or is every company going to have their own platform and their own coin or their own sort of thing that might look slightly different from a technological perspective? I don't know. But the digital world continuing to be a thing and more things moving digitally and more aspects of our life moving digitally, I think is at least for right now, seems like the way things are going. But there might be eras and societies that have pushbacks, and we might find that a lot of this metaverse stuff has like humongous issues with like depression and anxiety and all sorts of things, and you might see governments banning it and saying it's not good, and who knows. These things are like, I think, so hard to predict.
Yeah,
but I think the interesting thing will be if, once PSA does something like this, are they two different things? So I can sell the physical card, but I still have the NFT, or is there some way to connect the two somehow? I don't know how.
I think it would probably be connected, but then again, like I said, it's kind of the idea.
I don't know how that would happen though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like PWCC Vault, right? You would only get the NFT by submitting your card to back to PSA, them verifying that that's your card, and they own it now, and then they can issue and send you out the NFT.
Oh, so they're holding it. So they're holding the card.
Yes, it's an entity has to hold it to issue the NFT. That's why that's how I feel it's gonna have to work. That's the only way.
Yeah, right? I ain't doing that. I want my card.
So. Right. No, but then you can get it. You can pull it back anytime. You know what I mean? You can get your card back anytime.
But then would I lose the NFT?
Then I guess you would have to lose the NFT. Yeah.
Yeah, because the issue, right, then would be like, I would do that. I'd get the NFT and then I'd like sell the NFT or something, or I'd sell the card, or I could sell the card and then keep the NFT and they would never know. Or so how would they actually track that? Unless they had some, they
would have to take it back. So basically you would transfer the NFT that was minted back to PSA, and now they own that, that JPEG, whatever it is. And that's
but how would they know I sold it? That type of thing. Unless your original idea, which is that I would have to first.
Well, now if you go back, you sold it, right? Yeah. You sold me you don't have the NFT anymore, right? You have the card. You sold it to me. The next time I want to get the NFT, I submit it to PSA, and they will send me the NFT. So it'll always work. It's always a system of pulleys that will always kind of intertwine and kind of work. You know
what I'm thinking is like you. Mm-hmm. So I have the card and the NFT right now in this scenario. Now you're saying I could only
your scenario is
and I agree.
Two. Yeah, that my scenario you only have one. Your scenario is sure.
Then it's useless to me because I always am going to choose the physical card over the NFT for me personally, always.
Right.
So then it doesn't provide that for me. Although that might not be true for everyone because, clearly for people who are putting it in the vault and keeping their cards in the vault, because they like the safety and they're all for the ease of selling, it's mostly for sellers, for them to have some sort of NFT or digital proof or whatever that they own it, which then can be used as sort of a custody chain that goes on and on and on. So you can see who owned it before. I love data. I love information, and having more of that historical data of who owned it before, I think is cool. Like I would enjoy that as a collector, that part of it.
So it just depends on the type of person you are too, right? Because let's say you want to own the actual physical card. Some people, they own the physical card, but they don't want to have it in their home and they want it to be safe. Well, that's another benefit of having it at, PSA, right? So it can go either way, as well as maybe you are a seller, right? Let's say you're in the market and you're buying and selling. We just put it all into there. And then after that, they see it all and you can just sell it easily without having to get the item and ship it to somebody. You literally just press 2 buttons. They send you the money, you send it to them and you're done. Right. It's instant done. No, there's no need for shipping anymore.
Sure.
So it does take that down, but that's the future. I think there's a lot of possibilities in there and we're definitely going to see it. You know what I mean? In one way or another, but how socially accepted it will be is another story.
Northwoods TCG says, do you think as we move into a more stable Pokemon market that the negativity will start to dissolve and equalize as well? Anything about that?
What kind of negativity though? What's this?
I think some of the stuff we talked about, like it could be toxicity or negativity towards people starting businesses, sellers, the overall anxiety, toxicity towards content creators, whatever it is. You think that will, as prices continue to sort of get more normal and things calm down, you think that toxicity or negativity, have you seen that this year? Because we on YouTube, you're on YouTube as well, but but I know it's not your.
I watch the content, so I'm on YouTube as well. Sure.
Yeah. So have you seen that sort of toxicity or negativity? Increase. I certainly have seen an increase from what it was a couple of years ago when things were calmer. It's also a much bigger hobby. So there's a lot more people, but
yeah. I did see it increase. I'm not sure if that negativity is going to decrease just because of the market stabilizing. I don't think it's directly correlated. I think it's always going to be kind of strongly correlated with just how many people are in the hobby. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people here, there's going to be more negativity. If there's less people here, there's less negativity. The other thing that correlates as well is if something is hyped up, right? There's always going to be negativity inside an area that's hyped up. So maybe in essence, when prices kind of stabilize, a lot of the hype's gone away, only the people that are actually, there to collect and whatnot are there, we're going to have less negativity. So some ways it kind of links, some ways it doesn't directly. But I think in the current stage that we're in right now for the market, I think, there will be less negativity for sure. A lot of those people have left. They've moved on to next, I don't know, Kendamas or Beyblades. I don't know what they're moving next to, but whatever the next, crazy thing is. that's where they're at.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I do think that I guess I do with the first part that you were saying. I do think, I guess, also that with the market stabilizing, like some of the negativity just increases when there are just like more people, engaged in the hobby. And I completely agree with that. But I do think some of it decreases when there's less change all the time. Like there's a lot of stress. A lot of people like lost a lot of money or lost a lot of value in their collection. A lot of people started businesses that are now really struggling or in, or in much worse spots and got stuck with lots of like distributor product that they're not able to sell, all sorts of things. When that happens, when there's that, and when LGS stores are making, $200 a booster box instead of 20, and people are angry at them and angry at that. And then there's a lot of frustration about who are the people getting rich and making the money and who are the people who aren't. When the wealth gets more evenly distributed down the chain from the Pokemon company to the distributors, to the LGSs and to us, secondary market people to whatever. Sure. When that is more calm and stable, I think that we all become more calm and stable, and we're less sort of like you get used to it too. Mm-hmm. I think part of it's a maturing thing of like getting used to like, there are people who have businesses here and that like, and not being like, yeah, those people are bad, but more like those people are actually like in large part actually sustain the hobby.
I never understood why people get, maybe it's because of, there's definitely a lot of bias. There's always bias, right? Why people get upset about, prices of things going up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It isn't it always just down to just supply demand? You know what I mean? Like, being upset at, a local card shop that's selling the product for double MSRP when that is the market price for it, right? It kind of always still mind boggles me. You know what I mean? Like it's weird because like people just forget sometimes that this is not a water, this is not electricity, it's not a natural resource. 100%. This is a hobby, you know what I mean? Like you collect it, it's supposed to be fun. It's a hobby, it's an extracurricular thing. It's not a main source. I think when we have problems with natural resources, then they can't be like that. But it's a hobby. You know what I mean? Supply demand. It's very normal, right? That happens.
It's basically asking, why do people not like capitalism? It's the same question. And really the answer is that wealth does not get distributed equally in capitalism. And so you had people this year who had a lot of fun, who made a lot of money, who enjoyed themselves a lot this year. And you had people who lost a lot of money, had a miserable time, and hate a bunch of people for it. Right. And so and now there's a complex conversation about like personal responsibility versus like, it's just unlucky and unfair and it's a corrupt system, and like these, and there's frankly, in my personal opinion, I tend to be somewhere in the middle, and that all these things are important to discuss and reasonable discussions to have on both sides. Right. But that is the reason why people are upset, is because it's not fair. It doesn't feel fair. And because there are people who disproportionately enjoyed the hobby this year and gained from the hobby, and other people for various reasons, whether that's they couldn't open the product they wanted to open, whether that's because they gambled and lost money and they blame some sort of content creator for that, right. Whatever it is and whatever's going on.
You know what it is? Hate to say it, but life's not fair.
Yeah.
But you should remember, life's not fair. But I would like to say, this is one thing that I think in people's lives that can be unfair that you can live with. You know what I mean? If you can't buy a Vivid Voltage box at $85, right? And you got to pay $200, you can live with that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just something to get over as well. But again, there's a lot of bias, right? In my position, maybe it's because, not as many people can, they aren't able to afford it. You know what I mean? Whereas I can pay $200 for Vivid Voltage box if I want to buy it, right? Obviously I'd love it at 85, but there's some bias there, but it's a hobby, have fun with it, enjoy it. And if it's no longer fun, find something that's fun, right? Life is more than just this. This is getting kind of deep, but it's
no, dude,
it's true, right? It's true. Yeah.
I think though that like, and as a therapist, right, I'm always like, well, so it isn't about the Pokemon necessarily, the Vivid Voltage all the time. It's about I need something to numb myself, or I need something. Now, a lot of the anger and toxicity came from this year because depression is skyrocketing right now, because of a lot of like isolation, loneliness, fear, concern about the future, economic anxiety around like inflation and what's going to happen to the economy. Even when things go up a lot, that actually creates a lot of anxiety and depression in a weird way. Like people get excited, but then you have to like, when do I sell? What do I do? Is it going to go up forever? Right. We tend to do actually better in more calm, stable markets and times. Yeah. And so when we're more depressed and anxious and uncomfortable, we're going to be more toxic or negative, or we're going to pick fights. We're going to assume the worst about people. We're going to focus on just the bad things rather than looking at the full picture. And, and I think so I'm 100% agree with you. It's like, this is not food and water. And so from like a public policy standpoint, like we don't need to regulate Pokemon the same way
we got bigger problems in the world that need regulation right now. We have a lot of other issues in the world right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you want to bring it up to the president and the world leaders that packs should be only X amount, then okay, but I don't know. Yeah.
So it's a good reality check, right? For people who are like, and just as you said, it's like, I'm so angry at this freaking YouTube content creator. It's like, whoa, like something's going on here that like, now part of it too can feel like worry about other people getting mistreated. And it becomes a lot more than just about Pokemon. When someone is getting scammed, I think like when we look at like the Frosted Caribou video and a lot of like the anger and frustration that came out of the hobby, it isn't just about Pokemon. It's also about like a hobby that I love changing, a hobby that I love some people coming in and making a lot of money who I don't relate to, who I don't connect to, who I don't think are particularly good people. It's a lot of that stuff. And you just hope that it's being channeled and talked about publicly as much as possible in ways that helps heal that, and moves us forward.
I think discussions like this, things that maybe we feel might be something that's common sense or something that we think is normal might not be the same for everybody else. So discussions like this and talking about it, I think people hearing this makes a big impact in their life, that they can sit back and take a step back and go, oh yeah, well, I'm so frustrated about Pokemon not being able to get boxes, but I don't really need it. Maybe I don't actually need it. You know what I mean? So it's very important to have these conversations. Very, very, very important for people to know and to hear this.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think a lot of people, just as you said, they have the same thoughts and feelings that we're sharing right here, but hearing other people say it makes them not feel alone or crazy about the way they're feeling. You know what I mean? So it like helps us all kind of like, as part of when you run like your community, it's like, it gives sort of a space where everyone can kind of be with each other and put thoughts off each other. And then you can feel kind of more confident or comfortable. We like consensus and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Doing pretty good for pretty late at night. 100 people hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Chilling, talking about life, talking about Pokemon, talking about the world. Who doesn't like to listen in? Yeah, and for the people that are still in the hobby that, really want to still collect and have difficulties because, maybe you're not financially in that position where you're able to, purchase the things that you like or the new sets that come out. One thing that I give you for advice is patience, right? In the current market, in the current ecosystem of Pokemon, patience pays off, right? You will be able to get what you want, right? But just be patient. That's it, right? I mean, if you want to get the box right away, if you want the card right away, just know there's a premium. You should know in your head. Always remember, there's going to be a premium then, right? You want to be the first. You want to have it at the beginning, right? The front of the line is always going to be more expensive. But if you're patient, right, you'll get it in the current ecosystem. You're not going to not get anybody. Brilliant Stars is about to release, right? Maybe it's going to be a little bit more expensive than you would like it to be, which, I mean, the prices are okay-ish right now, but it's a little more expensive than you want it to be. Just be patient. It will be there, right? Pokemon has proven that they are definitely doing very well with that. Right. I can't say the same about old sets though. Old sets, it's harder to say when to be patient, when to go in, when to buy, but modern stuff, I mean, that's the big tip of advice, which I feel the bulk of people that are frustrated are mostly the people that are buying into the modern stuff right now and enjoying Pokemon in the now and not about a lot of the vintage stuff. So patience, right? Very, very big.
Yep.
Because we got some pretty hype sets coming out, whatever that special set this year is that Shining Fates of this year, that's going to be a hype set. So just be patient. Yeah, for sure.
Infinite War says, how do you feel about the algo bots immediately buying everything before people who enjoy the hobby can?
That's obviously nobody's in agreement with people having that unfair advantage, right? But the question is more, how can Pokemon and these other sites, take steps towards, eliminating it? That's the biggest thing. Because, I mean, let's be real. Do you think Pokemon wants these algorithm bots to buy everything? I don't think their answer is ever no, right? But in their shoes, how do they fix it easily? It's easy for us as bystanders, maybe some experts on the side. Oh, you can just program that. You can eat this easily, right? But they have a whole different thing and chain of systems on how they have to start doing things and in order to stop things like that. But I do hope that they eliminate it more and more over time. I think they've made it a little bit better, right? But haven't nailed it down completely yet. Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely outside of my area of expertise. Same personally. But I do, from the market standpoint, which is more of what I feel comfortable talking about. It's a lose-lose for everyone, because and for them too, because when the bots buy a lot of it and it creates this hype, people get this artificial sort of like scarcity feeling, and then it kind of snowballs and raises the price in sort of a way that is not as sustainable as if the product was just immediately getting bought up by people who really wanted it. And then Pokemon would have more of a sense of how much do we really need to print. Part of why I think some of these sets actually got overprinted is because of all of the investor, botter, scalper types who didn't really have any plan on opening it, didn't really want it. And it's not a major significant issue if you want to go out there. I mean, someone like Rudy, right? I mean, he's bought $250,000 of Chilling Reign, which
okay, we can talk about that, but yeah.
Which does have, in some sense, a negative effect on the market, in the sense that like now that's like $250,000 of stuff that won't get opened, won't get circulated. It'll take longer for those boxes to come out, be opened, for prices to kind of level out and make sense. When a lot of people do that type of stuff, it creates patterns in the market that are a little unpredictable. But you as a buyer just need to understand it and adapt, because that's always going to happen. Like where there's money that can be made, there's always going to be people who do that sort of thing at small or large scales. I myself have done that, not as large of a scale, but I've done the sort of same thing. I saw 78 dollar boxes. I think I got mine for 72 a box, 71 a box, because I got like a eBay Bucks promo basically. And when I could buy Chilling Reign and Battle Styles at $71 a box, I was going to do it, both to open it for fun, but also just, that I think that it'll be fun to have that in a few years when it might be $120, $130 a box or something. And I'm able to, have my cost basis be low that I can open and enjoy it or sell some or whatever.
But it happens all the time in the hobby. You have to remember that, right? Yeah. Whether or not it's a big scale like Rudy, 250,000, it's in every collectible hobby that, people in the hobby, you will buy one box to open, one box to keep sealed. It'll go up in price. You'll sell it. You'll be able to have funds for the next one that you buy. Sure. It's just something that always goes on. It's just how big of a scale, right? But going back to, I guess, the botting thing, I'm in the same thing with you. I'm not sure how they can fully fix it. But one thing that I feel is true, even though I'm kind of, boomerish, is that if there's a hacker or they want to program something maliciously in some way, they're always going to be able to do it. I don't know if that's true or false, but I feel it's true, right? If somebody wants to hack you, they'll hack you. I don't care how crazy sophisticated your system is, right? If a hacker wants to hack you or do something, they'll be able to do it. So I think they'll always kind of be there. But how can Pokemon, eliminate that, as much as possible would be good. And that's for them to solve, right? Yeah. And
the reason like the junk wax era happened in sports is when demand gets really huge, it brings more businesses, it brings more people trying to make money, and which pushes up prices more and more and more and inflates things. And then the companies print to demand and continue to print and print and print. But what happens is we find out that there aren't enough collectors. There are more businesses now than collectors. There are more investors than collectors, people to actually open it and enjoy it. And when that happens, you get a junk wax era. And then a bunch of people leave. It's not fun. The hobby dies in a lot of ways. And then what happens? They start printing less. And then if it is able to sustain itself, then that less printed period is actually the period that ends up being then again more valuable in the future. And the junk wax era takes a long time to become valuable if it ever does again. Now, we don't know if the amount of cards printed in the junk wax era in sports compared to Pokemon, there's so much less being printed of Pokemon because there aren't a million different companies that were printing sports at all the same time. And Pokemon is doing, I think, a much better job of controlling it. But I saw you mention this on your stream. It's something that we don't know exactly how much Pokemon is printing right now. And so we don't know with these sets how long it's really going to take for that product to really be absorbed, that prices are actually going to go up, and this is not the Sun and Moon era or the particularly the early X and Y. And it is certainly not Black and White, Diamond and Pearl in terms of how little supply.
Maybe evolutions, because they did make mistakes on printing a little bit too much of that. But we don't know how it's going to be in the long term. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you just want to follow the track record, collect what you like, boxes you have will probably go up in the future. But how much, that magnitude is going to be unknown, right? I guarantee you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, Evolving Skies is not the same price as it is now. 100%. It won't be. But.
And I'm a big believer in not being greedy for also the sake of the hobby and for the sake of yourself in the long run. And I think that also means not buying things out, leaving things for other people to buy, buying certain percentages, make some good moves. But if you buy too much and you get too greedy, you can create hype or artificialness around something that can actually hurt it and hurt its growth in the long run and create sort of artificial printing.
What you're saying is people should buy a lot and don't tell people they bought a lot. Guys, you guys are learning today. I see. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Because imagine how much like crazy stuff people buy and we don't know, right? Like you said, Rudy, he bought that. How many other Rudy's out there that are just not on social media that just bought? We will never know. You know what I mean? That's the crazy part, right?
We don't know. And it stands to logic that many, many more people, did it during this period than ever did it before in Pokemon because of the amount of potential gain. So, and the speed of that gain. And we're still living in this price memory of things jumping up in price so quickly. When Rudy comes out and he says, who really out there thinks that Battle Styles won't be $200 to $300 in 4 to 5 years? It's like, I think that it could easily not be, because we had sets that were better than Battle Styles sit at $85, even $79, $80 for 5 years during the Sun and Moon era and during periods before. And we could easily go back to that. Now, do I think we will? If I had to guess, no. I think it's different now. I think the demand is higher now. And I think even with the amount printed, there's more of a chance for those boxes to go to 120. I think you have so many more collectors, investors, speculators now, but that doesn't mean that like it's 100% or it's like this obvious thing. And to not understand the danger or the history. And that's where I got frustrated this year. There were a lot of people saying those things or starting videos who weren't in the hobby during some of those other periods. And so they just didn't know, they say things like, well, every booster box goes up and you just have to buy and hold and look right now, everything has gone up. It's like, well, there were boxes that didn't move for 5 years and then all of a sudden spiked. And we don't know, is that going to be this? Is it going to be a different pattern? And it's a different hobby.
A lot of gurus. Yeah. Let's just say that a lot of gurus I've seen quite a few gurus and stuff that, think that they know what they're talking about when, maybe they have some kind of, business from before and knowledge from before, but they're trying to apply it into Pokemon or like a different sector they're not familiar with. It just doesn't work out. You know what I mean? You have to have been in the hobby, in my personal opinion, and you have to have known the history of things to kind of get a gauge of what's going on, because every market's different. Yeah, every market's different.
Northwood CCG asks, do you think this wave system for release that Pokemon is doing now could help slow the overprinting of products compared to demand, possibly prevent a junk wax era? Interesting question.
Yeah, I waves was not something that Pokemon has really done in the past until more recent. And I think it is good because waves will give us a better gauge of what is the demand for a particular product. And as a collector, I like to preserve, like I said earlier, I like to collect rare things, right? I don't like things that are too easily obtainable. So keeping things printed to demand, not making it scarce, but not overprinting is very, very important. I think the waves might give them a better gauge of that for particular sets. Yeah, to not make the mistake, because they've made many mistakes in the past of technically overprinting for certain sets. Again, going back to like evolutions and other sets back then too. they have made those mistakes before, and I would hate for them to do that again. Yeah.
Yeah, instinctually that seems right to me. That makes sense. Although I would want to think about it a little bit more, because I my brain also thinks things like, well, if they don't print a lot in a wave, it might actually make that it might make people think there may not be another wave and then go up more, which may cause the stores to over order. And then when they over order, they actually print hugely to demand, but the demand is more based on the fact that people think this box is going to be very valuable rather than really wanting it. So I don't know. It's talk about complicated. Like in my mind, it's like, how do you, so they're going to try different things. I think like if I was running the Pokemon company, the main goal is to keep the supply chain profitable for everyone. So you need to keep the distributors happy, and you need to keep the LGSs happy, and then you need to keep the end customers happy, because you're actually selling directly to the distributors, and that whole chain matters. And so this might be something that they're like testing out. Obviously we're just speculating here to see how that goes, and probably are going to be asking feedback from distributors and LGSs, like how they like it or how effective it is. But it's a great question. It's a really interesting topic to think about. Yeah. And has it made things better or worse, or we're not really sure. I know a lot of the LGSs were upset that so many of the waves hit at the same time. So it was like they got a bunch of Battle Styles, Chilling Reigns, like Evolving Skies, and then Fusion Strike, and they got stuck with a bunch, or, particularly Battle Styles and Chilling Reign. The rest, they didn't get so stuck. But yeah, those two people got really stuck, which is why the prices went down so much. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, I guess one of the saving graces for them is that Pokemon is in demand, but imagine if demand slowly died down. That could kill, that literally kills businesses. You know what I mean? That literally kills those local card shops that you might know that are around for sure. So
yeah. But I think Pokemon's they just seem to be, they just do a good job. I don't know. I have a lot of faith. We'll see, but
they've done well. Just not They're always lagging. They're just always lagging. They always, they always respond and stuff on a lag, but they always do things good. You know what I mean? They adapt. Yeah.
I think they are slow and conservative, but I guess I'm slow and conservative. So
in my
decision making, I prefer not taking action. This is just who I am as a person. And because I actually worry about like unintended negative consequences. Right. So I think oftentimes when people like rush to make changes, particularly large companies or large systems like a government, there are lots of unintended consequences. And so making like slow, steady changes and then getting feedback and seeing how that works and then continuing to adapt slowly over time, I think is a much better approach. But obviously that can be very frustrating for people who want things to change very quickly or really don't like things very quickly. I just don't think that works very well, because I think when companies make huge changes all at once, there's just a chance of it being like a disaster, so, but I don't know. It's tough.
A question though. It was a really good question. I never thought about the waves. Yeah. I mean, like we said, it's new. It's not something that happened before in the past. So
they're saying, let's make your brains work this late and see what happens.
Are you typically up pretty late? You're pretty.
I am. Yeah. Okay. My girlfriend and I are going to try to get on earlier schedule. She's a lot better than me, but once we move but I tend to be up pretty late working. My brain tends to wake up. So I actually do a lot of work quite late. And I usually, these days I'm waking up at like 10 PM or so. So I, generally speaking, I go to bed at about like 1:30 or so, 1:30.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think there's a lot of people like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure majority of the chat right now is probably just like that.
So can we go for like another 13 minutes or so till
Sure.
Till 45. And then I think I probably should call it because I do have work tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'd be happy to have you on again. And, also just, if we ever want to do something in the future.
Yeah, like what we said earlier, just vibe out. I mean, vibing out tonight has been great. I think we've talked about a lot of great topics. And it's been very fun. It's been very, very fun. Yeah.
And I'd love to have you on as just like a roundtable guest too, because we like just bringing like people on and just kind of hanging out and having different opinions with multiple people if you're ever interested.
Sure. Just let me know when, and again, we'll play it by ear like we do. Yeah.
All right, guys. A few more questions here. Okay, so a bit of a specific market question about what I should do. All right, so Empire of Nostalgia says, I got a base set near mint to mint. Would you slab the 16 hollows, grade with CGC or PSA, or just sell as the set as a complete binder set? So I'm guessing this is a question about how I'm going to make the most money, or what because he's looking to sell. So do you want me to read it one more time?
Yeah, read it one more time.
I got a base set near mint to mint. So it's a complete base set of the hollows, or I think it's a complete base set of all of them near mint mint. I don't know if it's unlimited or first edition, but should I grade it with CGC or PSA, or just sell as the set, as a complete binder set? What should I do with it? And and near mint mint.
So like usually when people ask questions of, where should I grade? What should I do? It really depends on what you're doing. And this is going to be the assumption, like you said, you're just trying to make the most money you can, right? You're just trying to sell it and you want to make the most money you can. Well, it depends how near mint your definition is as well, because everybody has different definitions of that, what I've noticed. But I would say if you're going to be grading anything, if it's got good chances of, high grades and nines and maybe tens, then PSA. But the thing is that you probably won't be grading all of those cards in there. There's a lot of cards in there that are not going to be of value, assuming this is unlimited, right? Things might be changed and are skewed. Like I said, there's a lot to the question as well, right? If it's first edition, if it's shadowless, right? Oh God, if it's fourth print, PSA. But there's a lot of nuances that you can do there, but best value is really dependent on the condition of your card. If you can get tens or even nines on some of the starters, then sure, it can be valuable or worth the risk to go with PSA. I say that you can go with CGC if you want and maybe grade them all because it's cheap, but then, on the downside, prices that you might be getting in return might not be as much, and there might not be as much, demand for it, even though CGC has definitely caught up in demand a little bit and has been a little bit more popular. So that's a tough one. I think there's some missing information in there. But yeah, there's a little bit missing information there to be able to fully answer that. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, these are math problems. It's how am I going to make the most money? And you have to sit down and you have to do the math. You have to do the research and understand, okay, so what does this sell at a 9 versus a 10 versus an 8? How long is it going to take me, to get those back? I know PSA right now, you can get in line for these like $50 submission tier if you want to go with PSA.
Cards, but
yeah, exactly. And how many cards can I actually, send out in that? And then how long is it going to take to get back? With CGC, it's going to cost me less, but maybe if I really think these have shots of 10s, the 10 premium is so much more than the 9.5 with CGC that it makes sense for me to pay the 50 or even wait a little bit for PSA prices to come down. There's a lot of factors that we don't know and we can't control. What I will say, the other big thing is, what type of business are you? Are you a person who's patient? Do you need the money right away? Are you a business who has an opportunity that they can put that money to work right away? Because most businesses will not grade in this situation unless they're first edition and they're going to get really huge premiums. They're probably not going to grade, even if they can make more money by grading, because they can actually make more money by selling it immediately and then buying something else under market and then flipping that money over again. So it's like keeping the money moving and going. And so, my guess is probably that you're not a business in that sort of sense, or doing like, probably huge high volume. I'm someone who I tend to be patient, and I tend to like to just get the most value for it. And I'm less concerned about constantly flipping, as long as I have the cash and the resources available to buy new things when they come up. But for example, if I really started running low on cash, I would be much more apt to sell certain things so that I do have cash, so that when really good deals come up or things come up, that I can actually buy them and afford them. Particularly, and I think, Island Grown and I are both in agreement that now is a certainly within the last couple years, this is the best buyer's market that there has been in a year and a half to 2 years, if you feel optimistic about Pokemon's future. Yeah. So, now is a time to, if you feel that way and you really enjoy this, to have money so that you can actually afford things when they come up.
He does say he doesn't need to sell straight away though. So if he doesn't need to sell straight away, then, patience is definitely gonna pay off. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to depend on your income, right? So if you have good income and you're constantly have enough money to buy the things that you want to buy, then then I would definitely be patient and try to probably get top dollar rather than looking to flip and move things quickly. And maybe you do want to wait for PSA, but again, it is a math problem. You have to sit down, and I'm not going to sit here and, and we could pull up eBay and try to do the math out for you, but this is literally what I do for everything, for all my decisions, right? I sit down, right. I do the math and I see how much more I'm going to profit, how much longer it's going to take. Is it worth it? These types of things.
Yeah. Another thing I always think about is, again, going back to, I said, missing information. This is going to be, no disrespect. Okay. But, I don't know if I trust, I don't really, actually, I'm going to say it. I don't trust anybody coming and telling me my card is in mint condition, my card is in good condition, my card's a 9 and a 10, because honestly, if you had that level of knowledge, I don't think you would have came to me and asked me that question of where you should grade and where you should sell. So that's kind of my judgment there, right? No disrespect as well. So I don't really know and have the information of how near mint or mint is this, do you know what near mint and mint is, right? Because that's a big factor if you're going to grade this card or not grade this card, right? If you're going to grade this card or not grade the card. So it's a math problem. I think that was the best thing that you said. That makes so much sense. It's a big math problem. So many different ways to go.
It's really interesting. It's such a personality thing, I find too. So like I used to run this channel in the beginning with a good friend of mine named Rafi, and Rafi is so conservative as a person that he's like, I don't think any of these cards will get like 10s or 9s. And I looked at his cards and they were like immaculately flawless. There was no way that they were going to get below 9s after I looked at them, but he had the type of personality that he was like, but there's like this tiny little, like, it's like, or it's slightly off center. It's like, no, they're not that strict. You know what I mean? But then you have other people who, I call it wishful thinking, who they just really want their cards to be worth more than they actually are. And I totally get that. I had a friend sell me their collection, and they told me things were in really good condition and near mint, and under close inspection, a lot of them were 3s because they had bends. They had things that were a little bit hard to see that I was only able to see because I have looked at hundreds of thousands of cards at this point, probably, and I can shine it in the light and see that bend or see that dirt. And the things with vintage cards is that they've been in the world, and they've been out in the world a long time, and they can have damage that can be really difficult to see. So it's not even so much a question of like that you are, it can be a question of that you just don't know exactly what to look for. And again, we're not talking to the person specifically who asked that question necessarily, but more just like in general, it's something for people to be aware out there.
I think the newer collectors, the biggest thing they miss is usually surface. I think they can do a good job at center. They do a good job at, edges and corners. Surface is one of the biggest things that they miss. That's the for sure one that they never really look at well. Yeah.
You are 100% right about that. And I also think that people, particularly for hollows, they underestimate how much scratches on the hollows damage, bring the grade down. Like people think they have like 9s because it has perfect centering and 0 whitening at all. But then they have like a few scratches on the hollow, and it's like, that's a 7, very likely, and it sucks because it's like, well, but it's perfect otherwise, but it's like, they're really going to hit you specifically there. So yeah. And then the bends, like little tiny bends or water damage, where the card warps in sort of a strange kind of like up and downish sort of way. Like those are the types of things that even for me, I can miss them, or I have to be really, really careful. And as I'm sending stuff out.
Yeah. It's tough. It's very tough. Yeah. It's just know it's not easy to get 10s, right? I mean, it might've been a little easier before, but I guess that's a question for another day, the speculative thing about population control and how strict PSA is and stuff like that. That's also another topic for another day. But yeah, it's not easy to grade. Yeah, but it's fun. I mean, I hope a lot of you guys out there, it doesn't discourage you from wanting to experiment and get cards graded and learn more about grading. I think there's a lot of fun in it as well, right? Not just getting the card at a grade, but actually learning more about getting cards graded, the process, how to do things. I think it's very, very fun, very rewarding too.
It is. And there is nuance to it as you go, in terms of like, okay, the centering is off on the back, but it's correct on the front. How does PSA look at centering on the back versus on the front? These types of things.
BGS, who cares? Exactly. Right. There's a lot of little things that you'll learn. It's kind of fun.
Exactly. So which company should I send it to? Okay, this one I should probably send to PSA. So there's a lot of that sort of thing. how does PSA look at scratching on the back versus scratching on the hollow? These types of things. And honestly, guys, it's not always the same. But it generally is within a window. And I have certain cards that I have in my to grade pile that I am really on the fence whether I want to send them out or not, because I'm like, is PSA going to care about that little rough cut corner or that little lip? Or, there are things that it's sort of like, I have examples in my collection where they gave me the 10, and then I have examples where they gave me the 8.
That's funny. There's a meme that I read recently that was like, it was a simple one. It was like, send your send your cards that are like, perfectly centered to like PSA for like good grades. Send your cards that are not, as perfectly centered to BGS for, still good grades. And then send your cards that are immaculate to CGC and get 9s.
9s. That's pretty good. 8.5.
But immaculate cards. Immaculate cards. I know.
Immaculate 8.5s. Yeah.
I guess, let me ask you a quick question then about that though. So what do you think about the strictness of CGC? You know what I mean? Like, they've been very strict. They're known to be very strict, but consistent, right? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
So the majority of my experience in this hobby outside of, well, obviously this year, but just in general, has been with PSA. I think I bought about 1,000 or so CGC slabs that I've gotten my hands on in the past few months.
Nice.
And looking at them, so most of them, actually, that's not really true. So I don't have a lot of like vintage hollows or high end sort of vintage hollow cards. A lot of the stuff I have are more commons, uncommons, rares. I do have some shadowless stuff that I looked at that I did buy, and then a lot of modern, lower end stuff. And yeah, my overall impression is that they're doing a fine job. Like, there's a rationality. There's like, these cards are exactly the same. One's a 9.5, one's a 9, one's a 9.5, one's a 10. That exists in all the grading companies. Particularly when it has subgrades and I can actually look at the subgrades and then look at the card really carefully. There are a lot of, I was targeting a lot of, so in the beginning, I was actually targeting CGC 10s before they started getting the black label premium, because it was becoming obvious that they were going to be about as difficult. I was hearing from people like 6% of my order or something was 10s. We won't know exactly until CGC makes the pop reports, brings that
hopefully
out.
This year. Hopefully this year. That's big for them, but they got to release it this year. So they said, so
there's going to be a lot of modern and a lot of commons, uncommon first edition and unlimited base. Like, there's going to be a lot of all of it. So my impression, I think all of the grading companies do a pretty good job. I'm more on the side of like, these companies do a pretty good job. Yes. Is it ridiculous? Of course, it's ridiculous, the amount that we pay for these things. It's ridiculous on one level, like the slight differences and the fact that you can crack a case and then resend it to a different one and you can make $2,000 more on it. You're like, of course, but like, it's all part of the game. It's all part of the chase and the rarity, and it's not going anywhere, and it's fun. But you do have to be careful and understand how the game of sorts is played and not get caught in what I call the grading mania. There's definitely a little bit of a like, I'm going to take this $1 card and get it graded, and then it's like $200. There's like a little bit of like that I would talk with people, and they had a little bit of like oh my God, grading, a little bit more than and I'm a huge graded card collector, so I really do like them. But I think at this point, with PSA maybe getting stricter, I don't really know. I definitely have a bunch of old certs that are pretty rough. But
likewise,
it's I think that all the grading companies do a pretty good job. I think for people out there, it's more about price, consistency. From a market perspective, PSA 10s get such a premium over 9.5s and CGC for the most part right now that it doesn't make sense to send your gem mint potential cards to CGC unless they're lower end and you can get them back quick, and it makes no financial sense to send them in at the higher tiers of PSA. Will that change in the future? It absolutely might. Like, we don't know. Over time, the market might move more towards CGC, or as a buyer, I've been targeting CGC 9.5s and 9s for that very reason, because I see them as undervalued and I see some of the PSA cards as overvalued.
Severely undervalued, especially when they were first starting to grade, to be honest. And yeah, after my first submission to CGC, I like their slabs. I'll be honest, I do like their slabs. And I do like the cards, but I think they are very strict on grading. They're tough to grade. But like, again, we talk about collectability, right? And, we like things to be a little rare. So maybe it makes the 10s feel a little more special. It makes the perfects feel a little more special, right? So in the long run, my main thing is as long as they are consistent, and that's important, right? Things like, PSA, even though they have the big market share, I don't like how PSA is not consistent throughout the years, right? Now it's tough with the millions of cards you push out, but consistency is key. And I think that consistency will pay off in the long run. So I think CGC staying consistent, doing what they're doing, I think they'll do well in the long term. That's my personal opinion. So I do like CGC quite a bit.
Yeah, if I had to predict, I think that CGC will close, and I think they already have in many ways, but maybe slightly more close the gap, particularly the 9.5s to 10 and the 8.5s to 9. Like, I think that those will slightly close the gaps. Otherwise, I think it'll probably be about exactly where it is right now. I think the price of CGC 9s compared to PSA 9s, I think will probably stay about where they are. Not too crazy.
It's kind of like BGS, right? You know what I mean? Like PSA 9s, a lot of them are higher than BGS 9s because BGS people just wanted it 10s, right? So it's kind of the same vibe there as well. So I think CGC will get to that BGS kind of level. I think that's where I kind of picture it. If that makes sense.
If I had to guess, I actually think CGC is going to do better in Pokemon than BGS slightly.
I mean, honestly, in my eyes, unless BGS changes their website and is not so boomer, bro, seriously, you up your game, man. That's another story as well. But if they could do that, then okay.
What is going on over there?
I don't know, man. I don't know who's running it over there, but they have a lot to change and do.
I mean, just hire someone who has some skill in creating websites and beautiful websites. And, I mean, oh my gosh.
I guarantee you there's somebody in the hobby right now that would just love the perk to grade at BGS, and they're a coding genius, and they'll change everything for you for that. You know what I mean? Seriously.
Just how difficult it is to check pop reports there.
It's a nightmare, dude. I hate it.
It's so hard. It's so much more complicated. Yeah. And it's not like the PSA website is this genius in beautiful websites, but at least it's it looks fairly modern, up-to-date, professional, and it's fairly easy to navigate. The Beckett website, I still go to that website, and I've been on there a million times looking at pop reports, and I still get confused, and I don't know where I'm going sometimes. And I'm still wait, how do I find the DBZ, the specific weird bitch thing I'm looking for?
Yeah, we're talking about the metaverse here, and BGS is still this far behind. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Getting a little late.
Yeah. All right. I think we need to probably end it there.
It's a good spot to end it. Yeah.
But thank you so much for hanging out. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate everyone in the chat for hanging out with us. And any last minute thoughts or words to end it for today? For now, we'll hopefully have you back.
No, it was an honor to kind of hang out with you and chat with you. It was awesome vibing out. I think we talked a lot of great topics, and look forward to maybe talking with you in the future and maybe with some other people as well. I think this is conversations that are great for the hobby. So I'm always down for that. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Really appreciate it. And if you guys can, if you want to go over and support his channel, go subscribe. And I put a link below in the description. And then you're also on Twitch and Instagram, I assume, and lots of different platforms.
Yeah, come by anytime, come hang out, and maybe in the future, right? Maybe we can plan together, maybe a podcast for the Twitch side, right? We got you on YouTube, do something on Twitch, and we can do something likewise over there.
I did want to ask you, and that'll have to wait till next time. I want to ask you more about the Twitch world, because I know so little about the Twitch Pokemon world.
Sure, let's do it.
We'll have to wait. Yeah,
we'll do it. To be continued. Leave them on cliffhanger.
Yeah. And if you guys out there can subscribe, join the Patreon, click our affiliate links. I appreciate your constant support, and we'll keep putting out hopefully good content for you all. Okay. All right. Everyone have a good night.